social media, we're benefiting economically. And,
yeah, I go out there and I say I'm not in.
I didn't realize we got
Yeah, there was another instance where we were supposed to be economically benefiting from something. I can't remember what that subject.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay, wait a minute. No, I'm not ready. I've got to come out and buy. Stanberry. Yeah.
All the.
Yeah, we're gonna do the. Yeah, we're gonna do them in order. We're gonna do the Stanberry people first.
You get a particular lane.
Thank you.
They could leave.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Welcome to the Cincinnati Park Board. I'm going to call this meeting to order.
Yeah.
The regular meeting in January of the Board of Cincinnati Parks Commissioners, and welcome everybody here to provide feedback and showing an interest in Cincinnati Park. So thank you for being here. I'll just note that all of the commissioners are present today, so all of our votes will be by voice vote. And thank you for being here. We've got quite a few speakers, and as you know, we've limited comments to 2 minutes. It's nothing personal. It's to get through all of these. Tia's going to keep her time clock going. So when we have 2 minutes, the buzzer will go off. So what we're going to do, we've got 3 or 4 different groups. So we're going to group the comments today so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. We're going to start with some comments about Stanberry Park. And Julie Reamer is first. Is Julie here?
Yeah, actually, okay.
Okay.
You guys signed a card that there's just 3 of us, 2 minutes.
I'm Kevin Sullivan.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Kevin Sullivan, a resident of the city of Cincinnati and a member of Stanberry Park Advisory Council. Stanberry Park Advisory Council has a proud history directly supporting Stanberry Park through conservation efforts by connecting our community with this great park and inspiring passion engagement with the next generation of park stewards. SPAC, Stanberry Parks Alliance, is aware of Cora's proposal, Cincinnati Off-Road Association, to construct mountain biking trails within Stanberry Park. Stanberry Park Advisory Council is opposed to the creation of trails within Stanberry Park for the usage by mountain bikers. SPAC has no objection to mountain biking per se. SPAC wants what we believe the community wants, a family-friendly park, accessible and safe for play for hiking and quiet reflection. Stanberry Park is home to many animal species, many native plants and old growth trees. The creation of mountain bike trails is a great disturbance of both the park's wildlife and green area. Use of the park trails by mountain bikers is disruptive to the daily living habitat of animals and plants. Common environmental impacts associated with mountain bike trails include vegetation loss, soil compaction, erosion, muddiness, degraded water quality, and disruption of wildlife promotes erosion of the land. Community residents have reached each other and gathered many signatures via petition opposing the adoption of mountain bike trails within Stanberry Park. SPAC has received 300 other voices. We hear them. I've heard many voices clearly state the desire to maintain the qualities of the park today and not disrupt its family-friendly nature. It's quoted in Travel and Leisure magazine in April of 21. A mother of 2 young children said, "My husband and I call Stanberry the best kept secret in Cincinnati. It's a beautiful place to go trail running, take a hike, play in the creek. Simply, the construction of mountain biking trails within Stanberry Park is not compatible with the honest nature of a community park."
Thank you very much. So Julie, are you going to?
Yes, I have a couple of different points.
Okay,
Okay, yes, I actually signed up for our group and specified, actually I talked to Jason and to Tia about that. We're just gonna each speak for a couple of minutes. I'm Julie Reimer and I'm a 36-year resident in Mount Washington. I've been involved in Stanberry Park all the time in volunteer activities. I'm gonna speak to the fact that the proposed trails directly cut through registered archaeological districts, and they're the sites of tribal significance in terms of their cultural sites, their burial sites, and their sacred sites. And that's why they are registered archaeological sites. And I'd like to think we've moved past the point where we would just throw recreational activities on top of those sites and disregard their significance without consulting tribal communities. These are also culturally significant. The trails on the south side that were proposed go through the Girard Station, and that was the military pioneer settlement that was established in 1792. There's still the big brass signs denoting that down there. And as Kevin had mentioned, it's a site of environmental significance. It was this whole area was originally, that we're talking about, was originally set aside as a wild and natural lowland floodplain habitat. And there's a really sensitive and kind of a rare variety of both vegetation and wildlife there. You go down there and you can see bald eagles, there are American woodcocks, minks, and other species. And one of our largest concerns is when you open these trails up to mountain bikes, I understand there are appropriate places. We feel Stanberry Park is an inappropriate place, partly because of what just happened in Burnet Woods, part of the park district, where over the course of a weekend, mountain bikers went in and created a 20-foot wide by 375-foot long rogue trail in which they destroyed all the oak saplings, pawpaw trees, spice bush, other native plants. And this was put in the park board with great dismay. They don't know who did it. There aren't the funds to restore, remediate issues like that. And that is what happens when trails are open to mountain bikes.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Before I get up here, I'm a little nervous about this.
No need to be.
All right, hi, I'm Christy Schmidt. I've been in Mount Washington for 31 years. I'm the acting pumpkin queen forever up there. And I just want to relay to you my concern as a park user. Stanberry, I hope that you guys go hike it. I don't know if you have, but if you do, it's hilly. I think that's why it would be probably why mountain bikers would want it. Sorry, this is.
Oh, yeah.
I can wait, step up.
Yeah. Bonus time.
So anyway, I'm an avid user of the park, been there 31 years, and it's hilly. It's fun. All my neighbors, you take your dogs, you walk them on a leash. And my concern with this, my sister-in-law actually also uses all the parks in the Cincinnati. It's her goal to walk the Hamilton County parks. And is with a multi-use trail, when bikers are common, you got to get out of the way. So as a park user with my dogs, with my grandson, I don't know how I'm going to get to the left or to the right as a mountain bike or an e-bike comes down the trail, because our trails are hilly. There's just simply nowhere to go. And that is, we have 10 schools within walking distance of this park. And you know that it was voted one of the top parks in the country for kid-friendly use and hiking, along with Zion. Now, I don't know if you've been to Zion. I've been to Zion. It's a great park. So for us, Ohio, to be on that level, that's a big deal. And to run mountain bikes through a kid and family-friendly park just for the sake of it just doesn't seem like the right use for the park. That is my plea to you. Don't destroy this. You've all been on Lunken Bike Trail, on your left, on your right. I love bikes. We ride our bikes around Lunken, but this is just not the right. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
No need to be nervous. Anyway.
I had a little speech and it said 2 minutes. I'm like, I gotta
So that was- Kevin Sullivan was who spoke first, correct? Okay, thank you.
Then Christy Schmidt.
Judy Zarin? Sure.
Good morning. Commissioners, Director, and all the attendees. Thank you for allowing me to speak today about the important change that they're trying to make to Stanberry Park mountain bike trails. I've been a resident of Mount Washington for 30 years. My husband and I volunteered at Stanberry Park, and our children and grandchildren also attended the park. And Joe planted many redbud trees. I'll put up owl houses, grew milkweed to help bring back the monarch butterflies. We removed honeysuckle, weeded, and picked up litter. We take pride in our park. Mountain bike trails would contradict and complement, but not complement Stanberry Park. It's too small to accommodate mountain bikes as well as children, dogs, and bird watchers. Not all parks need to be activated. Nature in itself is just enough. I suggest anyone seeking this type of recreation within Cincinnati parks should utilize the already constructed and sanctioned mountain bike trails. In a very short time, we have gotten signatures, we gathered, and we put those together for you. As the stewards of the park, we need to think we care about the voices of the flora and the fauna too. When we walk Stanberry Park, it's quiet and peaceful. Nature is all around you. What we love about our park, the damage to the environment could be catastrophic. Imagine you're in a quiet, peaceful forest with birds, animals, insects, wildflowers, with the gentle sound of running water. Peaceful and joyful, a place where you can go, as John Muir says, and I go into the forest to lose my mind and find my soul. That's Stanberry Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got copies of our petitions here that I'm gonna hand out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Okay, I'll probably not pronounce this right, but Olive Birkenhauer?
It's my handwriting. It's
It's
Olivia.
Olivia, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And I appreciate that from everyone attending, all the commissioners in the parks. First, thank you for putting outdoor recreation in Greater Cincinnati as one of your first and foremost objects to get to all areas. I am ex officio president of Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance. We maintain and volunteer our hours for over 115 miles of trails throughout the Greater Cincinnati area. Currently at Mount Airy, we built 4.5 miles of trails, and considering looking at getting the additional funding for completing the Mount Airy Skills Park, which we believe will bring more outdoor recreation to an urban core area that greatly needs it. And introducing a lot of the kids and working with Adventure Crew and other nonprofits like Cora that will bring some extra programming, additional programming and recreation to some of the urban core. They work a lot with Cincinnati Public Schools, the Mount Airy Skills area. Completing that and the beginner loop trail around that will enable us to put that program together and get more kids out on bikes and get them off of their electronics, introduce them to exercise, and introduce them and get them out into nature. Because I, as an avid mountain biker and hiker, don't tell anyone, but I actually hiked more hours last year than I biked, do enjoy, that's the part of it that really brought me and really helped me cope with a lot of stress things, is getting outdoor into nature, whether it's by foot or whether it's by bike, and really looking at what we do and what we will do and have done at Mount Airy, if you've gone to those trails, is build sustainable trails that last for a long time and that people enjoy hiking and getting out on. And then maintaining those through our, I don't know, whatever, 6,500, whatever, how many hours we're up to, Jason Reeser, volunteer hours at our different trail systems. So thank you for consideration. What you're doing in the Mount Airy Skills will last generations. It will impact especially the youth, our youth. And that's the main goal.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivia. Jason Reeser.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. On behalf of the community and the Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance, I extend my heartfelt appreciation for you considering funding and investing in the Mount Airy Bike Park. Change can be challenging, but your decision to fund this community space is a testament to your dedication to promoting healthy and active lifestyles with a low impact facility, while also fostering a sense of community in our city. The bike park will not only provide a fun and safe place for people of all ages to bike and enjoy the outdoors, but also serve as a vital tool in reconnecting urban youth with nature and promoting an active outdoor culture. I am thrilled to see our partners, Adventure Crew, Ohio Mountain Bike League middle and high school teams, the Cincinnati Parks Foundation Be Well initiative, and Bridges Adaptive Cycling for those with disabilities. With the completion of this, they'd be able to start wheeled programming in Mount Airy that reaches so many who have been unserved but need it most. With this park, we'll see a positive impact on the health and mental well-being of our community, especially our children, making Cincinnati a more attractive and livable place, and making it more attractive and easier to retain our workforce and talent and top talent. Thank you again, and thanks to Director Jason Barron and Natural Resources Manager Crystal Courtney for working on this with us and maintaining our parks, which we value so much. And of course, being leaders for positive change in our community. Port looks forward to being part of this exciting project should you choose to fund it, and being there with you at the groundbreaking, at the grand opening, and supporting long-term use and maintenance of the park should you fund it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move into comments on the dog park, which I think are the rest of the comments. So Cynthia Duvall, Cynthia, you're first.
Morning.
Morning.
Within the lifespan of materials for the dog park, turf usage in our parks is going to be banned. It's the way it's going. It's the way other cities are doing it. We know this is full of bad chemicals for our water supply and our earth. And when it comes time to replace these materials, this $150,000 worth of turf is going to cost over $1 million to $2 million to remediate and replace, for the sheer fact that it leaves a brown field in its wake. And with the fact that there's only currently one company that does remediation of it, and it's overseas. This is horrible stuff. You guys know it, the science is there. So what is going to leave a legacy of this is the waste that's behind it and the people that decided to put it there. Also legacy will be the increase in our deferred maintenance deficit by more than $20 million in the last 4 years. The discrediting of the 2007 master plan without the ability or direction to complete even one master plan for one park in 4 years. This is something you Commissioner Getz requested for Burnet Woods in 2019. We do not have one yet. A revolving door of directors and completely ignoring staff recommendations for site choices. A sign on Eden Park for a donor that's bigger than the sign that says Eden Park. And a history of completed projects that all started with the words, "my friends," instead of "this community" or "this city." All of which are leadership failures from not thinking in generations, but in thinking in terms of donorship, who's writing the checks, and who we know. This is inappropriate. Burnet Woods Dog Park is a mistake. It will be an emblematic legacy mistake for the people who decide to put it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Rama Kasturi.
Good morning and greetings from me again in the new year. I come to represent the community of people that has called me with disbelief about what is going on with respect to a dog park, following calls from the dog park proponents to try to raise money in the community. So I'm here to represent 94-year-old Ingrid Grupp, my colleague and friend, who is essentially left 20% of her eyes and is not able to walk in to say what she needs to say today. She said, "Rama, please," and she's written to you last night, she sent me a copy, "please stop this immediately and do not let them put the dog park in Clifton Meadows either." People don't want it in Mount Storm Park that live in Clifton, Donora Park that live in Clifton, Bowder Park that live in Clifton, and in Burnet Woods that live in Clifton. People don't want it that live around Clifton, either in Cuff, Coreyville, North Side. The message couldn't be louder or clearer. And I'm here to remind you that the reason you have a $150,000 increase in the ask by Jason Barron in your budget discussion today is because the community of people that wants to have this dog park is a small, self-absorbed, selfishly self-focused group of people that cannot even raise this money on their own. The real cost, I've been told from my sources, who I will not really reveal here today, is $700,000 right now. With the cost overruns, who knows how much it's going to cost the parks and PUP. And I am here to beseech you to engage the community, find a reasonable, not so expensive solution to actually determine the best location for a dog park, if necessary at all. As a dog owner for 27 years, I know that dogs do not socialize the way people do. And there's lots of danger to the public and to the people who bring their dogs to the dog parks and to their dogs. I've had my dogs bitten. So please reconsider. This is inappropriate.
Thank you, Rama. Rachel Wells.
And I'd like to update you on the petition opposing the dog park in Burnet Woods. I just have one copy today, so I'll let you pass that around. Last month I was here to introduce the petition, and since then our signatures have more than doubled. We have 100 signatures from being in person in the park, spending time with people who rely on Burnet Woods, and then another 300 online. It's been cold, so we decided to take both approaches. In addition to that, I'd like to ask you to deny the budget request for $300,000 that would support the dog park in Burnet Woods. Park should spend no further time, energy, or resources on that until Burnet Woods has been afforded comparable community engagement to what was afforded Denora Park when it faced a similar proposal. Park's community engagement efforts have been specific to a dog park proposal in Denora Park, and that included a community survey, signs in the park, social media posts, and more. Those were specific to Denora Park and completed prior to the identification of 7 alternative sites, including the current site in Burnet Woods. Burnet Woods is a regional park with more and different stakeholders, and it deserves the same level of community engagement. There's been no community survey, no signs in the park, no social media posts. Park's first website post about the proposal was posted only last week. Cincinnati Parks is engaged only with those who are already in the know about the Denora Park proposal, failing to recognize that Burnet Woods is an entirely different park with a unique ecosystem and a unique stakeholder group. Please reject the request to budget $300,000 from the Commissioner's Fund to support this controversial dog park project in Burnet Woods and redirect the funds to Park's long list of deferred maintenance needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene Underwood.
Hello.
Welcome,
Thank you
neighbor.
for inviting me. My name is Darlene Underwood. I have lived in Clifton for 25 years. I owned a business in Clifton for 30 years. I'm upset. I've never gotten into politics. It's not my realm. It's not where I put my energy. I raised kids, and I cannot believe that we are now using our green space for something that does not serve the whole, but serves a few. I have raised my kids in this park. That hill is where they did their sledding. That hill, it is like this. It goes into a gully. I am so disappointed that we have not had any community engagement. CTM has not made any proposal, has not voted on this, and yet you're willing to give up $300,000. That is over $250,000. That park, you could teach people how to fish in the pond. You could have more kids come to the park. You are going to disrupt. My backyard actually faces the park. And I hear the gibbons from the zoo. I hear the train whistle from the zoo. And now I hear the fireworks from downtown Cincinnati when they have the Reds have a home run. And now I'm going to listen to dogs. I liked all the other sounds. They They make my day. I know what time of day it is. But I don't like the idea that I have to listen to dogs barking and fussing with each other when I have my coffee on my back porch to relax and spend my time in the yard that I have owned for over 25 years. I think that this is a bad decision, and I think that a lot of people are here to support that. So thank you for your time, and I really hope that you reconsider.
Thank you, Darlene. Sally Dannemeyer.
Hello.
Oh.
Actually, my name is Sally Dan Miller. And I'm here to represent the Burnet Woods Park Advisory Council. Our advisory council, although I haven't created a paragraph about it, we love Burnet Woods. We meet monthly and we meet intentionally with regard to Burnet Woods, everything from invasive removal to the health of the lake there. So we're serious about it. Our advisory council has expressed our objections in 2 different resolutions against the dog park. The most recent is in April of 2022. We do not support adding a dog park because it would, 1, remove green space, which we feel is valuable and actually beautiful. That little swale that was just mentioned has been named and it's now called Pleasant Valley. So just so you know. It would negatively impact the current environment in Burnet Woods. It would negatively impact the on-street parking, which is very, very tight in that area. There are a lot of apartments and condos surrounding that portion of the park. It would also impact the water quality. And that would be due to the presence of the plastic carpet, if you would, as well, which contains PFAS, as well as the whatever that the dogs do in the park. Anyway, it also does not adequately address equitable criteria for locating a dog park. There are many other locations that would be in closer proximity to neighborhoods that would benefit from this that don't have multiple parks in their neighborhood. That area has Burnet Woods, Mount Storm, Denor, etc. So also it does not protect the Audubon designated important birding area. We ask that you not fund the project and rather clean the lake, which is polluted, and work with MSD to fix the sewer and daylight the stream, which is in the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Mary Singler.
Hello. I'm the membership secretary, Mary Singler. I'm the membership secretary of the Clifton Heights, University Heights, and Fairview Neighborhood Association. We sent a letter of opposition to the park board in May of 2022. We remain opposed to the Burnet Woods Dog Park, especially in the light of the increased budget that is now proposed. We express concerns about infrastructure. We feel that infrastructure concerns in the park need to be addressed first, repairs, before we put anything in there. And also we're very concerned about green space. We expressed many other concerns in our letter, and we ask you to review that again. Thank you for your time and your leadership.
Thank you. Marie, and I'm sorry, I'll pronounce this correctly. Marie Kokosish. Kokosish, thank you.
As I said, Marika Koshas, I'm on the executive committee of the Miami group of the Sierra Club. And we are opposed to any additional funding for Burnet Woods until the delayed maintenance that really has become an issue in many of the city parks is taken care of. For example, and this is just a little anecdotal evidence or concerns that members of the Sierra Club have come to me with. And as a reminder, the Sierra Club has over 6,000 members in the Southwest Ohio region. We oppose this funding until many of these items of delayed maintenance in many parks are taken care of. Obviously, some of these have already been mentioned today. We understand, or we observe, that there's some stairs that need to be replaced. This is a hazard for walkers, dog, and anybody who is in the park, and a liability for the park district. We also are noticing that there are sinkholes that need to be repaired in the park. As mentioned before, the lake needs to be drained, and we've got sewer issues in addition to the ones in Burnet. There's also sewer issues that have arisen in Old Park. So some other issues that have been arisen for delayed maintenance are some of the park benches are really unusable because they're so decayed that you can't even sit on them. So the Sierra Club asks that you do this delayed maintenance before you put any additional funding for the dog park in Burnet Woods. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Settlemeyer. Morning.
Morning. Good morning, commissioners, director. I'm here this morning to talk about the Burnet Woods Dog Park. As you know, I've done a lot of work in some different parks. I've come to you before speaking on behalf of the Walnut Woods project primarily, but today I'm here simply as a private citizen as well as an active parks volunteer who likes to do conservation work in many different forests. And I think that the presence of a dog park in Burnet Woods would have the potential to detract from, the nature, the aesthetic of Burnet Woods, especially the idea of Burnet Woods as a nature preserve. While it does not hold that classification, we do not have that classification within our park system. Burnet Woods is an incredible park. Not only is it located in an urban area right next to the University of Cincinnati, but as you've already heard this morning, it does have an incredible display of plant and wildlife and a lot of unique species that call this incredibly urban park home. And not only do we have a lot of visitors that like to come and hike in the park, but this has been one of the most active parks in terms of the conservation effort. We've been able to really use that space as a place to bolster conservation efforts in other parks around Cincinnati, been able to use that space to train up other volunteers, engage University of Cincinnati students and professors who not only have actively continued to work in that park, but have gone to other parks and assisted in the conservation efforts. And so I really do think of Burnet Woods as a hub for some of these conservation efforts that we are trying to bolster, not only in some of the parks nearby, but throughout all corners of the Cincinnati park system. So I implore you to think about Burnet Woods more as a nature preserve and to continue to think about that space, not only as a place that, as you've heard this morning, people really feel passionately about and like to recreate in, but as this place that can really bolster the conservation efforts that so many of us are really trying to push forward in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I'm sorry, is it Lou Epstein? Thank you.
Thank you. Good moment to speak with you. Commissioner Jason, been a long time since seeing you. I will say right up front, I am not a resident of Cincinnati, but I am a lover of Cincinnati parks. I am down in Clifton all the time, in Burnet Woods and the like. And I'm going to really pose some rhetorical questions. It was reported some years back that the parks was over $50 million in arrears and maintenance. And you all know that it was in the inquiry. I suspect that number is higher now. Can you guys report on where we were in 21, where we were in 22, and where we expect to be at the end of 23 in maintenance and arrears? What percentage of that are safety related issues? Other people have brought up crumbling stairs. Maybe nobody's brought up, but I imagine that some of the buildings in our parks have roof issues. I know we have plenty of parks from Bountico all the way across town. And how many bathrooms are closed? How many of our public restrooms in our parks are not open due to plumbing issues and repairs that need to be made? the issue of a master plan was brought up. And that should be the only thing that we're working off of. And I contend that a dog park was not in the prior master plan for Burnet Woods. You should be working off of the master plan because the master plan requires the highest level of scrutiny from both the staff and the community in order to get approved, as opposed to special requests that may come in over a beer. And I won't go there. Let me ask this, where did the extra $150,000, my understanding is y'all are going to vote on a little bit later in the meeting. Did y'all receive a private donation for that $150,000? And if so, that's got to be made public.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Jeff Kentrup. Kentrup.
I'm not that
I hardly get.
I'm working on it, don't believe me. Hi, my name's Jeff, just like you just said. Been a volunteer with Cincinnati Parks for a little while here. I just graduated through the Ohio Certified Volunteer Naturalist Program, the first one he had here in the city. And I really benefited from it. I thank you all for that. I've been out every weekend cutting down honeysuckle and picking up trash and doing a lot of research on Cincinnati parks. From way back in the Piet Park, all the donations of land, all the Kessler plan, Adolph Struck, all those big names. And, they came up with a great plan, the way the parks are scattered around the city and the sizes of them, and the forethought they had to set all that green space aside, was just astounding to me, But now, they want to put this dog park in Burnet Woods, and I just think it is totally the wrong place for a dog park. I mean, I don't know if any of you are as old as me, but if I grew up in Covington, St. Mary's Cathedral is a beautiful old building in downtown Covington, if you're familiar. But right across the street, there was a White Castle. I sat right across the street from this big, most beautiful building in Cincinnati, and everybody always thought that White Castle was so out of place. It doesn't belong there. Well, I think if a dog park is put in that place, it's not going to belong there. It's not going to fit. It's just going to be flash in the pan, and then it's going to be forgotten, and it's just going to become an eyesore. And to me, picnic or the parks is picnicking, going out with your family. When you're at my age, you had to but I just think they should spend the money on picnic tables, much needed picnic tables in a dog park.
Thank you, Jeff. We do not, we have things on our agenda that are addressing some of your issues, but Director, there were a lot of comments about our deferred maintenance, and particularly that should we address or create funds for other amenities, is it putting safety concerns at risk into our parks? So can you just comment on that?
Well, I was trying to find an email. I had a council person ask me the same question, and Joel Gross, our director of planning and does planning and design, got me the information, but the steps that were brought to our attention in the last meeting were already have been met on site and have a plan moving forward to have those fixed. And the 2 sinkholes, Joel's met on site with MSD to address those. I believe, and I don't want to speak for Joel because, as you guys know, he knows a lot more of the details than I ever will. But I believe one of them we think might be a quick fix, another one might be more of a longer term fix. In fact, Joel and I love the idea for the person that brought up daylighting the MSD combined sewer there. We were just talking about that yesterday. I think that's definitely something that long term we want to try to help encourage MSD to do. It's not on their next 5-year agenda, but they've got a lot of combined sewer flows to do. But as far as the 2 sinkholes and the steps, I think it was Marie, who we've known for a long time, brought up those 3 specific projects, and all of those will, in fact, to Marie's request, be completed well before the dog park is, even if the additional funding that's voted on today. So all of that's in the process, and we're always looking for things that are immediate safety concerns to take care of as quick as we can.
Super. And as far as deferred maintenance or maintenance needs over the next few years, the park board did do what we have now is a master plan for our deferred maintenance. We had a third-party consultant come in who laid out for us every single park, every single maintenance thing that needs to be done. They prioritized it for us as far as what needs to be done in the next 3 years, what needs to be done within the next 5 years, what needs to be done, and on your radar screen for the next 10 years. So we have a roadmap, and we're thrilled with what Joel and his team are doing as far as we get additional money from the city, we continue to look at the maintenance needs. I can assure you that safety needs in our parks are number one, and we are hitting those things. And Jason and his crowd his team, are using funds that are being made available to us to hit those maintenance needs that we have throughout our park. But the park can do both. We can continue to fix and to maintain what we have, but we also need to be a park that's vibrant for our communities. There are taxpayers who are paying money every single day to go towards parks. And that's where we do want to make sure, just as we have unbelievable park down at Smale Park, we had other parks that had been around for a long time, but you can do the new as well as maintaining the old. And so that's where I think that the concept of doing only maintenance on our existing infrastructure is a focus of ours. But again, we can do both. We can maintain our existing, and we can also add amenities that make our parks vibrant, make us continue to be in the top 10 park systems in the United States. And it's because of those things that we are looking for opportunities to make our parks welcoming and to make them inviting to the whole region as well as the country. So again, I thank everybody for coming today. For the past several years, we've gotten a lot of input. We continue to get the input, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And always thank you for your interest in Cincinnati Parks. So with that, we'll move into our agenda. I also want to mention we did get a number of comments that are delivered to us through our website. Besides Burnet Woods pro and con of building the dog parks, we did get an update from the Cincinnati Skateboard Project that is looking to put a skating park in Cincinnati, and they had provided to us an update as well of their activities and their fundraising that are going on. With that, we'll move into Sawyer Point skating rink presentation. And Jason, do you want to introduce this topic for us?
We're about to learn about it. And so this is Morgan Rigo, who is getting a lot of energy behind skating, as we're about to hear.
Well, and I'm here to share it. I'm here to share my joy and more so my gratitude towards Parks Board, towards the Parks Foundation. Thank you all so much. And to the skate community that has really just rallied around this to bring life into a space that was already here. The outdoor skating rink at Sawyer Point was built during the bicentennial. It's been there since 1988, and it was built for skating. While we're getting our slides up here, it has really, really good bones. We love a lot about it, and there's a lot to love. Tia, if you could move to that next slide there to show the landscaping or the lay of the land at Sawyer Point. It's right on the riverfront. It's nestled in between the wildly popular pickleball courts and the Montgomery Inn Boathouse. We're right along the Crown Trail, which is exciting. The Oasis line runs right by the skating rink, and we're all out there in our roller skates dreaming of skating on and off of the Crown from the rink. They're actually directly connected by an existing path. So again, great bones, killer location, fantastic neighbors. There's just a whole lot to love about this. I lead a group called Skate Downtown Cincinnati, and we've been dedicated to empowering the local skaters from the skate community to lead programs at the outdoor rink at Sawyer Point, as well as the OTR CRC. And so I'm here to show you some pictures of our programs and share a little bit about what we're doing. Long term, we see if you could go back 2 slides and forward 1. Thanks. Long term, we see the opportunity because the rink has so much going for it already. We see the opportunity to really create a skate destination here, and to do that with homegrown talent. There's so many talented people here in our skating community, many of whom are here today in support. And they've really had a blank canvas to lead and to do what they are good at, and to get creative with programs that they want to see in their community. And we think that this is a formula for success, not just for the skating community and the singular activity, but really for the city. The outdoor rink is one of the largest outdoor rinks in the country. There are comparable structures in Venice Beach, California, which is known as a skate destination. There are comparable rinks in Brooklyn, New York, which is also known as a skate destination. But here we are right in the middle, in the Midwest, with this incredible public asset. What we have is truly special here. And we see this as an opportunity to bring people from other parts of the country here and really put Cincinnati on the map for skating and just social wellness in general. We also see the activity at the skating rink working with pickleball, with the crowd improvements, and with the other energy happening at Sawyer Point, our largest riverfront park, to catalyze other improvements to Sawyer Point. It's really a beautiful park. It's been there since 1988, like I said, and we found that the more activity we create with the roller skating programs, the more we can chip away at that deferred maintenance, open the restrooms, and work towards some of these larger goals for parks. So, our biggest, to get to that big vision, we started with a really simple goal, and that was just to make the rink safe, welcoming, and fun. We have to start with safe. And Tia, if you'll help me with the next slide here. We took a multi-pronged approach to safety. We had skate instructors like Will, who showed up at the rink to actually coach with folks and work with them on skills and drills so they could level up their skating skills and be more confident skaters. But we also had this amazing partnership with Cincy Parks, and I've got to give a big shout out to Lou Sand. I don't know if he could make it today, but Lou and his entire staff were really, really wonderful partners in the riverfront. And if we identified some things that we work towards together, Lou and then Jen and her team at Parks Foundation, they all partnered with us to hold a volunteer day, where we got a group of volunteers together and painted the rink after Parks had some carpentry and some repair work done on the facility. And so that was fabulous. We're working on improving the space as we use it simultaneously. See if you can help me with the next slide, please. The second facet is welcoming. We had skaters who worked and volunteered the events. They worked the doors. We had greeters. We had skaters who were designated to just making folks feel welcome in the space, just reaching out, introducing themselves, saying hello, talking about the programs, telling people what we were doing. We had skate DJs lead programs. We had the junior roller derby team host a team party. Altogether, we hosted 12 sessions over the summer, and it culminated in a 4-day-long roller skating festival, which brings me to that last tenet, which is fun. We had a roller skating festival that attracted over 1,000 people into the park, into the rink. We found that spectators loved these programs. people who were out walking their dog or just spending time in the park, they're stopping to see what's going on. They're spending time at the rink. Some people would just kind of pull over and dance to the music. You know, they really loved our DJs. We had some great DJs. And so, you know, it provided this level of activity and really contagious joy spreading in the park that was a perfect complement to the pickleball programming, what was happening at Dean's Restaurant in Montgomery Inn, and all of the walking and the existing park usage. So I really think that we brought a lot of new people into the park, and we gave them a reason to spend a lot more time in the park. As far as attendance, you know, we were very fortunate to have Parks Foundation marketing and PR support. They were behind us every step of the way, helping us get the word out. But, you know, this was a grassroots effort. We had skaters going out to local rinks, sharing flyers and like playbills. This was very much social media driven. In fact, our Instagram skate reels got 170,000 eyes on this skating rink. Just using short form video as a tool to spread the word about what we were doing. So there's. Can I add in real quick? Absolutely, Will's one of the.
So, real quick, I wanted to let you guys know that I had over personally alone on social media. I put one post up, I got over 200,000 views and over 1,000 shares. I've had people message me, ask me what's going on in Cincinnati. And I have literally just been sitting there messaging back over my phone constantly. I've used my phone more in the last half a year of this park than I have in all my life.
They're blowing you up, Will.
They blow me up. So I just wanted to let you guys know there's traction, not just in Cincinnati. It's literally all over the tri-state area. I got people in California want to come out and do workshops. I got people asking me questions constantly about when is the next one going to happen. So I like I said, I just wanted to step in and say that real quick. It's been absolutely crazy how much traction something that's already been here is getting. And all it takes is just a little sprucing up and a little bit of maintenance, because is on the state park, there are poles sticking out of the ground. And we had to mark those in some of those pictures. If you notice, if you go back one slide, there's orange marking on the ground. That's done by us. We went in there and marked the floor to make sure people don't trip over those hazards. And it's just some small maintenance stuff, and maybe even potentially in the future looking and redoing that surface to where everybody can skate on safely and not have to worry about any safety concerns at all.
And the great thing about the program pilot, thank you so much, Will, you're amazing. And by the way, if you ever want to learn how to roller skate, come down and we'll teach you, okay? So
bring your skates.
Bring your skates. So the beauty of having a pilot program like this that allowed us to test the space, see what the public response was, take the temperature of what the opportunity is and what the potential could be. And again, like seeing the online reaction to skater videos, to all of the sharing that's happened with respects to this program. We've gotten a lot more eyes on the rink. And of course, along the way, you learn about, the things that you want to improve. And so this has just been the most tremendous learning experience. And thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I wanted to show you one more slide, I guess two, but there's always one more. The community that's come that has come together around these programs and around the outdoor rink has been nothing short of remarkable. We have a multicultural, multi-generational community. We've had leaders like Sean, Will, Marie, whole crew of skaters come and bringing their talent. So Marie is teaching yoga for skaters. Sean is bringing his entire rhythm skating team, the Reckless Skaters, up, and they're doing routines and skating together and really like elevating the whole vibe. And then Will coaching all ages children through adults. It's been really fabulous. Getting the Derby teams involved has been wonderful. And then continuing the program at the OTR CRC this winter, we've been able to, we stopped having programs at Sawyer Point in October. We've been continue building that momentum through the winter. And at our last Wake and Skate, we had just shy of 400 people there skating. And that's at a tiny rink in OTR.
We ran out of skates.
We ran out of skates. We filled the place up. And it was just amazing. And so I want you all to mark your calendars for the opening at Sawyer Point. It's going to be next level. We're going to have a good time this year. We know a little more about what we're doing and definitely don't claim to know it all, but we're going here with a season under our belt. We're really excited to host you there May 27th from 7 to 10 p.m. We're hosting a party. The Reckless Skaters are going to be our co-hosts and our special guests. We've got a wonderful local DJ, and I want you guys to come out and see this magic firsthand. So please join us, and thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Was that one more time?
May 27th, 7 to 10.
Yeah.
The first hour and a half will be all ages, so it's family friendly. Bring your kids. And then the last hour and a half is going to be adult skate, and that's when you can come and you can watch some fabulous skaters whirl and twirl all around the rink, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
You got world-renowned talent in Cincinnati that you guys never
Yeah, we're
Lori, do any of the commissioners have questions, Morgan, about?
I would love to answer any.
Speaking of safety, I didn't see very many knee pads.
Crash helmets.
It's a skater thing. It's a skater thing.
Okay. I see.
It says the gentleman with crutches here.
So, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you guys so much. Really, really thank you.
Okay, now we'll get into the really exciting stuff. Minutes of the prior meeting. I hope
We're
that,
starting our agenda now.
yeah, hope that each of the commissioners has had an opportunity to review the minutes that Tia provided. Are there any additions, corrections, changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So
And second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. And thank you, Tia. Great job. Derek, right on schedule. Come in and introduce some of our new hires. Thank you.
Derek Gentry. So they actually aren't here, but we do have a number of great hires that we're starting in the last couple of pay periods and currently. So we have a rolling number around 20 vacancies, time employees, but we have an architect intern, Andrew Campbell, that recently started with the planning and design. We have 2 laborers that we are now making full-time, so they're transitioning from their part-time to full-time employment, Alexandra Cecil and Ishmael Garrett. We have 2 florists who have been promoted. One, Ricky Sina, Amanda Byers. We have an HVAC specialist, Paul Speck, that started with us in our facilities division. And we also have Eric Johnson, who is now an electrician with the facilities division. So we have a lot of new hires starting and continuously entering new requisitions in.
So how many new hires and how many promotions?
I would say 3 promotions, and altogether there are 7 new hires.
And of the new hires, Derek, are you seeing people from outside the city applying, or is it from within the city?
Both, absolutely. It just depends on the position. So our trades positions like electricians, plumbers, you'll see those are open postings, but both current city employment and outside city employees can apply to that. Especially for our engineering and intern position, engineering and architect positions, those are mostly outside people. You'll have some people who want to promote internally.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Derek, I was looking in our report, our staffing report. Is it in here?
It's the second to last page.
Second to last page. And it's got, we still have, let's say we've got 21 positions open right now. We've been trending on that for a long time. It looks like right now we've got 132 filled positions. Is it 25 vacant? Or maybe that was just the end of last year. So we're making a little progress.
This time last year, correct?
Right. I know it's a tough labor market. It's tough everywhere. But I just want to make the point that one of our big challenges with deferred maintenance is having people to actually do the work, because it's not like we're contracting with third parties to manage a lot of this deferred maintenance. It gets done by the staff of the parks. So to the extent we can get, I think that represents 12 or 15%. And that's very detrimental to an organization to have that many seats open. So what are your thoughts this year on how we can really dig in on that?
Well, one, we started posting a little bit earlier, and we're partnering with universities. We actually have a committee where marketing committee where we're trying to get out signs to say, hey, we're hiring part-time, full-time. Problem is you also have various other city departments that are posting, like recreation, recreation and public services. We have those part-time employees. So it's very competitive internally and out externally, but we are like marketing. We're trying to get on all our social media outlets early. We have them posted on like University of Cincinnati's websites and stuff, let them know what vacancies we have. And we're just reaching out to the public to say, hey, if you know somebody who wants to work for the city, this is what we have available. Even yesterday, we met with, me and Jason, part of the city manager's office, and met with some grad students and PhD students on just the type of positions that we have here in parks.
We also just on Monday or Tuesday, holiday, we just posted on Tuesday all of our seasonal positions for the summer. So all of our recreation specialists and our municipal workers. I think there were like 8 postings that went up that will be, we're hoping to start that earlier this year. In fact, all week long, the bench outside has had yard signs that have been sitting there to be distributed throughout our parks. So we're really trying to do everything in our, the operations team, and a lot of folks have gotten together early to kind of plan some different ways to do recruiting. We're even talking about doing a job fair. I believe that's in the works. So we're trying a lot of different things to try to get folks in the door quicker. And I also wanted to point out that the chart on the left says 21 is the variance, but when you look at how that 21 is developed on the chart on the right, there are 5 positions that have been hired. So it's a little bit of how they're kind of in status, which is what drives that variance number, but it's actually 16. So if you look at it that way, we've really made some progress. You can also see that
That's great.
in October, we actually went from 157 budgeted positions to 161. So our number went up, which then makes our variance. So even though we were making progress against that first number, so there has been movement. So just
Okay, so we've got 140. I'm tracking now, 140 filled positions.
well, and then 5 of them are in the hired category. So those will be filled next year, but they're kind of, as with me, you guys hired me in June, but then I wasn't on the books until September. So sometimes there's a lag there, but we are making progress against that.
So the critical positions that are open right now are, I know we always say on Joel's team.
Those teams actually moving forward a lot.
Yeah.
We've had several spots there. And so we've got a couple more irons in the fire.
Thanks, Eric.
And I think it's important too, we said it last meeting, I believe. I appreciate the focus that the director and the staff are putting on maintenance and improving the facilities that our people work in. Also our vehicles, we'll be talking about that in just a little while, but making sure that our employees have a welcoming environment to work in. So hopefully that'll help as well as we're looking for seasonal staff.
That kind of connects with a thought I had. I recognize, as has been stated, that hiring is challenging all over. And it's certainly true in the city. And you mentioned other departments. And I was just wondering if you look at the other departments in the city, how are we stacking up relative to them in terms of being able to attract people to fill the positions we have? Are we at any deficit that we could address and perhaps be more competitive?
I think parks in general is perceived as a great place to work for internally with the city. Most people want to come here. So we have a leg up on other departments. I think we hire a little bit faster just because I've worked in the central HR department for a while, so I know how to kind of expedite the process. And we're building capacity in our central HR, our HR division, because we'll add another FTE. So I'm hiring 2 HR people.
Great.
And I can give you, since I'm your representative on the CRC board, this same report, there were 18 at CRC. So it is comparable
Out of
to
a total staff.
a much higher staff, obviously, but on full-time employees, it's about the same. But they've got where we have 21 that we're showing open, they had 18 as of this yesterday.
And they have a team of like 5 HR people.
Yeah.
We're one right now.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Good point.
So we'll start tracking on open per, let's do a ratio there, open per staff members in HR. Thank you, Derek. Any other questions for Derek?
Job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Joel, more information. Let's hear about planning and design.
Not a whole lot going on with us.
No.
Appreciate all the comments this morning. It's nice to hear from the people that use these parks, what they mean to them. Makes my job even more important. So happy to have that criticism. Internally, things we're doing right now, we've been talking about the project tracker for a long time now. I invite everybody to look at those tables that we include. That pretty much shows you where we're targeting our efforts on deferred maintenance. You can see pretty quickly that there's $15 million in projects that are in progress, meaning that we have contracts with our contractors, vendors, and consultants and are doing that work. Some of that is Burnet Woods. So there are many of those projects are deferred maintenance. And as you said, Commissioner Getz, I echo that certainly. I feel we have to move forward and develop parks and activate new things while still being able to overcome the maintenance issues that we have. Many of those projects, all of those projects can be categorized within those 4 tables. So I invite everyone to look at those and ask questions about them.
Well, can I, just so everybody heard that, you've got $15 million according to your detailed planning document. We've got $15 million
in progress.
In progress. Thank you. Yep.
Beyond that, there's another 15 million initiated, which means that we're acting upon those projects. They're funded and ready to go. So much of that is this deferred maintenance that people are talking about. $30 million worth of that is in the works, like imminent. So, okay.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
We're developing an internal tool as well, because there's 12 divisions essentially within Parks itself. And we all have meetings together and we all have silos that we have to overcome to make sure that we're working together as a unit. So we're developing a project tracking tool internally, which is more like an executive summary of the 15 things for every division within Parks that we're working on every single day. Some of those you're not going to see, but it's just day-to-day things that we have to deal with. Some of those may include things that are on Director Barron's list, the 18, 20 big projects that we're working on all the time. That is one place that internally I feel we all create our own agendas, and over the past 7 or 8 months, I feel like this will really help us as a cohesive unit try to work together and streamline our time together, making our project management more effective. Thank you last time when we met in December, you all allowed us to fund our underground utilities. That's going to help us immensely. Matt Devona is working with ETS right now, working to piggyback onto their proposal that is due, I believe, in the next month. So we should be working towards initial digitization of all of our assets underground that are inside of our park system. Matt's heading that up, as you can imagine, and I'll let you know if we need any additional support, but the maps are already cataloged in my office and ready for digitization as soon as that proposal goes out. Staff update, as Derek mentioned, we've hired an architect intern. His name's Andrew Campbell. He's awesome. He has a degree in architecture, and he's about a year or 2 away from sitting in for his registered architecture, essentially the equivalent of a professional license exam. He's a preservationist, which is awesome because a lot of people, me included, care a lot about the old buildings that we oversee and are stewards of. So Andrew was hired specifically to be able to help us as we, renovate some of these buildings that haven't been touched in 50 to 100 years. So that was a strategic hire. He's already paying dividends and he's jumping in. He worked with Chris McGee before at GBBN, so he's no stranger. We could not be more excited to have him on our team. So just wanted to echo what Derek said there. We are also in the process, I believe, of extending an offer to a person for an engineering technician position, more of a field associate, someone that can survey, somebody that can go out and do some of these maintenance issues for us and kind of oversee that, the things that, even myself as a division manager do right now. I'm out in the field myself, pretty much every day, looking at some of these problems, looking at the sinkholes in Burnet Woods, looking at the stairs, ensuring that my contractors are getting quotes for that stuff so we can get them fixed as fast as possible. So all of the pieces that we add will certainly help. Just want to mention one more very important position that we're still accepting applications for is a engineer intern in the same manner that we just hired Andrew. On the engineering side of that, that's an individual that's 2 or 3 years after their degree, essentially a year or two away from sitting for a professional engineering license like myself, that can help us with many of the other stability projects and grading and drainage projects. So we're actively hiring for that. If anyone knows a great candidate, wants a good challenge, it's a super fun place to work. I added a new section this time just because we're getting to the point where we may have some of these from time to time that you all need to see, but not necessarily act on. Memorandums of understanding. We have 2 just to show you this month. One is at Victory Parkway, essentially adjacent to the Xavier tennis courts over there. Tia, can you pull up a picture, please? I want to, this one's very non-invasive. So you can see the yellow line there. Adjacent to those tennis courts, MSD needs to come in and reline that brick sewer. It's it's over 100 years old at this point, has several points of infiltration and inflow, which adds to the capacity of what they have to treat at the plant. So they're coming in as minimally invasive as possibly to shotcrete the inside of these pipes. So they're not going to dig everything up and replace it. They're just going to come in, reline the pipe with a polymer elastic concrete, which bonds to the inside of the brick. It doesn't reduce flow because essentially you're changing. I don't want to get that far. In any case, it won't change or affect the capacity of that pipe, but it will make it so we can change it for another 50 to 100 years without having to dig everything up to do it. So when we can do those things, we try to do that. MSD has been a great partner. I work with some folks over there, very much the same with Burnet Woods and things like that. They're working together to try to correct their problems, and this is one example of such. The second one is also an MSD project that affects LeBlanc. There's 2 spots over there, one of which is a current MSD outfall. I believe it's 452 and 453, the one that you're looking at exactly to you. They're coming in essentially to replace that because in certain low flow periods, the water gets so low that it will allow siphon back into the system. And then they have to treat water that essentially is river water, which is detrimental to the cost for MSD. So what they're going to do is come in and replace that outfall there with something that won't allow that. In line, they're going to put a backflow preventer, which is essentially a check valve, which won't allow water to come backwards. And this is a 60-inch one. So I got to see this thing because I haven't seen one that big in a while. And they're also going to put a maintenance pad above that, which isn't really impacting any land that's not an erosion issue right now. That's just a place for their trucks to pull off. They may have to get a crane to have maintenance on some of these valves and things that are very, very heavy at that size, as you can imagine. So Garrett and I have both been on site. Our land manager, Garrett Dieno, valued all the trees that are going to be impacted on this. There are several within the bank there, as you can see, right against the river in that little picture. That's the riparian zone. Certainly very important for erosion. But our land management team and us will come back in after MSD does what they need to do and properly restores the area. And we will live stake that such that it even adds more protection back into that riparian zone. Things I'm learning from parks, even make engineering things even better. So thanks to Garrett and his team for showing me that trip. It's really, really neat. I have no issues with either of these. Jason and I have both signed off on these. We just want to bring them to your attention. I believe because they're MSD, no easements are required entity to entity. So it's more informational for you all that we recommend that these be allowed. I don't know, Jason, I don't need to vote on those. I don't believe, correct? Okay, so that's, you all have any questions on either one of those MOUs?
No. Always MSD.
Yeah, as you well know, we're getting ready to do quite a few more with them. All right, so on to just some project updates. Like we said last month, we're trying to shift this a little bit to where I'm not always just trying to talk about the 12 big long-term projects that we're working on. These are the day-to-day things that affect our staff and what our staff is focusing on every single month. So one of those is a sanitary sewer issue right off the bat. It's internal. This is exactly a demonstration of why we need to map the internal pipes that we have, because the all sanitary sewer pipes are crushed in cooperation with MSD internal. Paul Tonis had maps that are drawn on paper for these kind of things, and we tracked down how to fix this. That is an emergency repair because it affects 2 buildings. Chris McGee is leading the charge and teaching some of our younger folks how to do these emergency declarations and get these things through. So that one will be on the street this week. We anticipate 3 quotes, and we should be able to have that ready to go and in construction by February. We'll report next month on how much that costs and keep you all aware of the situation. The Alms, Alton, and French water mains, that actually spawned that project. That's where we found out about the Alms sanitary issue. That project is complete in design, essentially going to go out for bids, and we'll do that in the spring as well. Much of that will be done with directional drilling as well, not open trenching. We go right under some trees. We go 3 or 4 feet underneath. It doesn't even affect them. We'll save a whole lot of intrusive erosion restoration and things like that. We're trying to do that as much as possible, be as surgical as possible, so that we're impacting our naturescape as little as possible when we do these improvements. Burnet Woods, we had a whole lot of conversation on this morning, and I can give you an update on where we are on many of those issues. The sinkholes are 2 problems. There are the MSD line that you see Tia showing on the screen right now. That is the Metropolitan Sewer District lines that everybody's talking about. In conjunction to that, there's internal storm sewer that the parks are in charge of themselves. One of the sinkholes is on that sewer. So Tia, go to the next picture, I think. This shows these are the Paultonus drawings, which is what we do. Now, essentially, we're going to digitize that stuff. That's a great picture of that. That's some of the drawings that we have right now are that old. And it shows right there both the sanitary sewer system that you just saw in green and some of the blue up there is storm sewer systems. At some point, both of those combine. But above that, Parks is in charge of taking care of that stuff themselves. So we have partnered with Bruce already on an emergency stormwater. They are televising the things that Parks is initially responsible for on their own so that we're proactive in getting that sinkhole fixed. We expect numbers on that within the next month. We had them fixed in the Bruce last week, so they're just moving as fast as they can from one to the next. The other one is a different problem associated with MSD down in the bottom land behind the Trailside Nature Center, as everyone is aware of. That floods. It needs to be separated such that the clean water doesn't intermix and combine with the sewer down below. It is absolutely a hot button issue with myself, and we're working with MSD right now to partner in getting that fixed. I do not know where it stands on their timeline. They're doing this all over our system, as you know, Alt Park, they're doing it along Valley Trail, daylighting that, trying to take some of these combined sewers away. So we will help MSD with whatever they need to provide them information to help guide this project so it's done as fast as possible.
I have a hypothetical question over here. The blue line, the storm water sewer that's along the road that's now a pedestrian road. In the hypothetical scenario that we vacated that road and removed that asphalt, would that storm water sewer be needed?
Man, that's a great point, Molly. I would love to infiltrate and keep on site in some of those areas as we road diet and repurpose some of Burnet Woods to make it more of a nature preserve. That's exactly where my head is and what we want to do. Help MSD by taking away some of the stormwater that they have to deal with.
Right.
Take some of that combined away. That's exactly where my head is.
These
So
roads are producing so much
that's right.
water waste that is unnecessary.
Minimize impermeable pavement for the use of only emergency vehicles, and then utilize that area that you take away to infiltrate and capture some of the stormwater and clean it. So that it's clean, cool.
I think removal of that asphalt, is that part of the master plan that was the 2007 master plan?
I'm not sure if all that made it in there. It's certainly part of Branstetter Carroll's infrastructure rehabilitation report is $3 million worth of roads inside of Burnet Woods that may or may not even be wanted. So we're certainly exploring that in the long term and what to do and how to best serve everybody that uses that while still maintaining functionality and accessibility to all the features inside of it. So we expect numbers on both of those sinkholes in the next month. MSD is also working on their piece of that. We have a sinkhole right down below Trailside that we certainly believe is affected by an inflow from that MSD system. We met with 10 people on site Monday last week, a week ago, 10 days ago now. And their collections division is essentially first in charge of that. We're going through the process with them. They've already been in contact, but we're working through a solution with them as well. We'll keep you all updated every month as that develops. You have any questions on that one so far?
Nope.
Okay, International Friendship Park rebuild is kind of kicked into high gear now. We've met several times with Human Nature, going through with our own staff, which I know is appreciated. Our florists have given direction on what plants worked and didn't work in that initial spot of the park to help better inform Bruce as they help us get rough order of magnitude costs. We expect that stuff by the end of this month. We'll be able to inform Greater Cincinnati Waterworks what that bill is going to essentially be, and then inform you all of how we can move forward to design, build, or design and implement construction on that project as quickly as possible. We hope that they get to do some stuff hardscaping at the end of this year and do the plantings initially in the beginning of next year. So that's a timeline for now.
Joel, is the shared path, is that open now through that area?
Yes, there was one spot that was completely taken away. Lou and his team put in some crushed granite there to accommodate a couple wheelchair. I don't know, I don't believe it was the American Legion, but another race of that sort.
Okay.
A wheelchair race in May. So all of that is still in place. It's fine for now until we completely close it down and rip it up. So no safety issues there whatsoever.
Joel,
Yes, ma'am.
refresh my memory. Is the agreement that is going to be restored to the way, the state it was in prior to the work?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So we've had many meetings with Greater Cincinnati Waterworks folks have been involved with us all the way through. So Human Nature did a really cool thing. And we had a meeting first where we defined assumptions and what we would do in certain situations. Like if they took 2/3 of the piece of the trail out, but if we could put concrete back here and it would be all right, but it's really going to look weird when you got brand new concrete here, at least back to a node. So those kind of things we walk through individually with Bruce and Waterworks so that we could, negotiate those on the spot before they made assumptions in their pricing that Waterworks was going to reject. We included them in the beginning, kind of hashed through some of those. There weren't a whole lot. They were pretty, haven't really given us any issue whatsoever. They've been very cooperative and nice and easy to work with. So I believe all of those are ironed out, but we'll see as the next month progresses and actual costs become. We also, one of those main assumptions, that's a great point. If there's a better way to do things, we're going to do it the better way. So if we know that we did things wrong 25 years ago when they put that in, like not the right subgrade or a different kind of catch basin that doesn't get as dirty, then we're going to upgrade that. And of course, Greater Cincinnati Waterworks agreed with that, even if the cost was a little bit different. They should be providing us, they have everything they need at this point, Bruce and Human Nature, to give us costs, which they'll provide us a rough order of magnitude, essentially a not to exceed number. And then we give that back to Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, which will allow them to bond and do what they need to do to fund the project.
Great, thank you.
Many things on Inwood Park, but the one Tia has up on the screen is probably the most immediate. We've had, as you know, we have a third-party agreement with Megan Construction that allows us to do some things rather quickly. One of these is this project right here. This is the Inwood Pond, the drainage pipe that drains the pond and allows Andy and his team to drain that for maintenance. It's broken and crushed in the area that's highlighted in that bubble right there. Megan Construction, with some of our partners underneath of them as subcontractors, has returned a price of $50,000 to fix that price. And we need to do that. So that's one of the action items that I show here is approval of use of $50,000 to fix this Inwood Pond. The issue with not doing it is if it freezes to the point where the pipes get really cold, it can cause massive damage if all that's not properly drained.
Joe, where is the funding coming for that?
This is out of infrastructure and rehabilitation, like a 21000.
So you're requesting approval for the $50,000 expenditure, and it's coming out of the capital. Okay. Any questions regarding? Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And second? All those, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, let's do the other one while we're there. Skip to the next one. I'll skip one and come back to the next one. So the other one that I have a quote regarding is also from Megan Construction. And this is at Warder Nursery. The areas highlighted right there are garbage, like to the point where there's a 2-foot hole in front of the garage there. People have to step over and avoid underneath of that is nowhere near safe. There's probably a 3-foot hole underneath of that gray box up there, down 3 feet, and it comes out underneath of the pavement 2 or 3 feet. Certainly can't drive vehicles up to it. People have to walk in and out of there. That's where Paul Devenbrock works out of his construction shop. So this project is to fix that, fill that void completely with flowable fill, which guarantees me that I'm not going to have a void under my pavement. That's why I'm using that instead of rock in that situation. And the bottom big box that you see is a piece of asphalt that is completely pulverized. The middle of it's pumped to the point where there's dirt sticking out and through it. So we're going to take that out, put a really thick reinforced concrete pad there, 10 inches thick, so the dumpsters can be loaded in and out of that. And that spot will then become where the dumpsters can permanently sit. In the future, as we re-expand and reactivate water, we'll probably screen that stuff, but not at the moment. For the moment, we're just asking for money to do the concrete work. Both of those With the exploratory stuff that they have to do in front, I believe the price on that is $66,000 under Megan Construction. And I'm asking for approval to use that via the infrastructure rehabilitation funds as well.
And those funds are available in your
Yes, sir.
budget. Any questions regarding that? Obviously, it's a safety issue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Something we absolutely have to do.
Absolutely. And because of that, I'm curious about the timing.
As fast as possible. I gave them inside of the quotations, they asked for when they need to be done by. It's 4/1, April 1st on both of these.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve funding for the repairs to water. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll get them enacted as soon as possible. I skipped one. I want to back up an update on the natural resources management facilities. This is the Ludlow site. Construction documents right now are out under the same kind of agreement for bid with our subcontractors. We've had nothing but bad luck on this so far. About a week and a half ago, we got word that the sprinklers had busted inside of the building. One of the floors, there was water in the basement. So at least we're catching it while we're designing it anyway. There was a big question about leaving the sprinklers in or taking them out under the code. So Chris is fighting for taking them out, as you can imagine. In any case, in the basement, they do have to be in. We know that because of egress distance issues. We're working through all that stuff right now. We expect that there will be a little bit of increased cost based on this, but not a whole lot because we're essentially renovating the whole building anyway. That is out for bid right now. I believe we expect a quote back by mid-February, so we should be able to report next month on what that's a substantial project. This could be a $600,000-$700,000 project. As we discussed and budgeted for. So hoping to enact that one as soon as possible and keep Crystal on schedule to have a new home. A couple notes on our current construction projects. Alt Park, talking about more maintenance and roofs. There absolutely are roofs that need fixed. And Alt Park's phase 1 of their rehabilitation of the pavilion roof is underway as of last week. One of the gentlemen told us that the whole reason they're taking these off is because the insulated panels, when they closed in that building, they had to insulate and condition the space. Underneath of the pavers, there's a layer of insulation that has become completely saturated. And going from 2 pounds per square foot to 100 pounds per square foot puts a load on the bottom of that roof that we do not want. So Chris has been championing this project. Imbus is on site right now working through that. And phase 1 of that, replacing that, putting in waterproof insulation underneath that to button that building up tighter and better than it was before. That's Chris's forte. That's what they're doing. And we should be able to report next month that that project's complete. Phase 1. Lytle Park renovation is 100% underway. Great news this month on all fronts. The ODOT and building permits are secure. So everything, all the issues we were dealing with on the drainage via MSD and all those are resolved. And we have permits in hand. There is a plumbing permit to change a little bit of how we go into the water main and the sanitary sewer, minor issues, but that permit, the contractor's still working to get that, just finalizing things with MSD. It's the least problem that I have in the world. The hard ones we already have. So big news and what's coming up next for Lytle. In the next week or so, we're going to move the Abraham Lincoln statue. They were going to do that over Christmas, but their crane guys have been talking about this and chewing on this, and they don't want to do anything to that statue. So the reason that it's delayed a little bit is because they're trying to figure out how to essentially use a machine to come up from underneath of it without having to rig any of the statue. Because even if you rig the statue, you have to rig it from below on the granite because that's what weighs 18,000 pounds. They're trying to do it a little bit better than that. We respect that and certainly agree with that. So we expect that either to happen early next week or late next week. They're going to move very, very soon. Lytle's going well. We expect underground work to start shortly after that. No major issues to report. The last one is McGrish Nature Preserve. First sinkhole we're dealing with in this round of 3 is complete. That was adjacent to the parking lot. So it was, in my mind, the most priority to get fixed first because if there was a void underneath the parking lot and someone parks in that spot and it collapses, that's the most liability versus closing off a trail, which we have done in certain situations. So that one is complete.
Joel, you're saying that this, it says it started on the 9th. That's already done.
Yes, sir.
There's a lag. We gotta get these reports in early. They're probably still working. We don't wait.
I would have had pictures, but haven't put them in this one yet. We'll have them next month. Essentially, they did a great job. Bruce did that for us. It was a cavity underground, but none of the, as we suspected, none of the parking lot was impacted whatsoever. Everything downstream was replaced with new pipe that doesn't allow infiltration, I, you'll hear me call it. All that's riprap so that we're not going to mess with anything. That whole area floods up and down. That was part of the problem. we put some big riprap in there, so our pipes are good even if that happens. That's all I have on the construction front. Just a couple of notes on some bigger projects that we're working through. California Woods, we're working 3 parts of that at one time. One is evaluating the roadways, as we talked about under that initial things. A second is coming to grips with an RFP for a master plan on that. We're working through the beginning stages of that. We have certainly interest from several of our partners and wanting to help us with that project. So we're working through a master plan to ensure an RFP for a master plan to ensure that we capture everything we need our potential consultants to do for that. Inwood Park.
Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
This one says RFQ.
RFQ, request for qualifications.
Yeah, you said RFP, so.
Interchangeable sometimes, but not in this.
Not always.
Not always. What we do on this.
Yeah.
It will be proposal probably because we'll have a number based
for her for catching.
qualifications and proposal. I think we would call an RFP because they're giving us a price.
So this will be a P and not a Q.
They will have to put in the Qs.
Oh.
They must give me a P.
I got it. Yeah, we can't do anything without the P. Okay.
If it was strictly qualifications, Commissioner, it would not include a price.
Got
With
it.
a proposal and them making, with us asking them for a fee, essentially that becomes a proposal.
Okay.
That's my mistake.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Inwood Park, Jason has been working with the community quite a bit on this. We heard you, Commissioner, and we're working to enact a basketball court first. We're going out to the community. Jason is involved heavily with that, and I'll let him talk.
Yeah, so I've met with Mount Auburn, both the executive committee, community council, and then the community council, and showed them a couple of different options. So this is right by the parking and right off of Vine Street and right by the so first of all, these are like the very preliminary drop a picture in and see what we got. But this would be near the pond. So we go to the next one. We also showed what it would look like with 2 half courts, essentially as an option for all these sites. And then the next one, this would be up near the play area, kind of at the top of the park and near some of the new apartments. And then we showed these as both as 1 full court and 2 half courts. And then the third option would be north of Hollister in that triangle that we still own. And we showed both a full court and then 2 half courts. So the feedback we got from the community, both at the executive committee and then Monday night at the full community council, was that they definitely wanted a full court. That was unanimous. They also were not like the second option very much because it was near the playground and they felt like they wanted to keep kind of the activity of older kids separate from activity of younger kids. Their preference or their number one favorite was the option 3.
The triangle.
Yep, above Hollister. And then, but they also said that the option 2, which would have been near the pond, would be something that we could talk through. For next steps, with that feedback, Joel's team is going to take the full court option for both option 2 and option 3 and option 1, and kind of take this to like the science level, the really measuring. And what I envision as next steps are to get those 2 options kind of really super measured out, kind of look at some options. Do we need, Jenny noted that the previous court that was replaced didn't have a center court. It was actually kind of a condensed court itself. And so we'll look at these sites to kind of the specific site conditions. What can we get in there? What's ideal? Do we need a full court? Do we need a smaller court? What will fit? But it will definitely be a full court and not 2 half courts that we proceed with. We'll bring those back. And then what I'm envisioning is maybe some sort of an on-site, fully noticed and not for decision-making, but an on-site like board tour where we'd invite the community and the board to kind of come out, check out the 2 sites, walk around, have any conversations that we want to have. Again, totally announced them open to the public, but to just see it on site so everybody can kind of look at it and see what they think. And then we'd be bringing it back to you guys for a decision. But our hope is, as we talked about, when we talked about the plan of work at the December meeting, is that we can get this done this spring. So it'll be available by summer using part of the $4 million of funds we have set aside for Inwood. And then as Joel just mentioned, meanwhile, we're going to get a master plan for Inwood that we're going to go out to RFP for this year. That would then help us design a master plan for it that might take a full year. So we probably wouldn't be constructing that until 24 or 25, but we want to get the basketball back as soon as we can. So that's kind of the next steps with it. We might also want to reach out to some other community councils in the area to kind of get some more feedback and make sure everybody's nodding their head and feeling like we're heading down the right path, and then we can make a choice for what's best for the park.
Jason, just to add, we've already engaged with a couple of our playground contractors that we have term contracts with to help us price these things. So we're already in the mode of figuring out the drainage and the implications of putting on slopes versus not, those kind of things that Jason alluded to, the next step of design that we can kind of do in-house a little bit under our term contract. So, yep. Exactly. That's all I had to add.
Really fun out here.
I just add, I'm glad to hear there's consensus forming around the full court option, which I 100% endorse over a half court option.
The one that's shown is from CRC, from Dan Jones, as we talked about last time. He provided some impact or input for us. That one, I believe, is shown as 62 wide, and that one's pretty much set because of the 3-point line. The 72 the other way is what is shortened on typically an outdoor court versus, a 97-foot court you see Americans play on. So 72 wide is what you're looking at right there. Commissioners, I think that's all I had in my report. Anything else for me? Any questions for me?
Great.
Just thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Very much.
Excellent work.
Very good. So we have crossed off piping repair at Inwood, Water. We're to Jason, Commissioner's Fund.
Excellent. So Commissioner's Fund, as I found out in applying for this job and doing my research and then talking to everybody once we got in, has been allowed to kind of build up over the last couple of years. There have been some funds that we get. There, the roll off, if you will, from the endowments that we have and from the various donations we had over the years, and they build up in the Commissioner's Fund. There also gets revenue in that from other sources such as gift shop sales, some contracts we have with different groups that go into these accounts. So we put together a plan for a couple of projects that we like to be funded using the Commissioner's funds. The first up is Torrance Parkway for about $18,000. That is Torrance Parkway, which is kind of just over here off of Columbia Parkway, has been, as with many parks, has been taking a hit from honeysuckle and starting to become extremely overgrown to a level that we're pretty concerned with, and we want to make sure that we get that feedback quickly. And so we're asking for $17,000 to, there is a balance, there's a fund solely in the Commissioner's Fund called the Torrance Parkway Fund. And we want to take the about $17,000 out of the balance of $32,000 out of that in order to attack these invasives and get them taken back. Next up is $300,000 for the Burnet Woods Dog Park. This is a project that in August of 2021, after discussion, commissioners determined that you wanted to move forward with the site that we've been proceeding with, which is kind of on Brookline, on the road Brookline in the northeastern part of the park. At the time, there was a commitment made to come up with $150,000 pursuant to community fundraising. That project then went through several steps, but the most recent step was that in May, there were some drawings for it that showed kind of like this is what the dog park could be. And correspondingly, they came up with a budget of about $450,000. Included a pretty sizable contingency, which Bill will always tell me is very important. We then, I wanted to take that and then put a plan together for how do we get there. We met with the community members and asked, what is a realistic fundraising number? When that $150,000 was proposed, there was no kind of budget for the project or real conversation about what's a realistic amount that could be raised. So we've challenged community to raise $100,000 towards the dog park. We're also going to try to value engineer the dog park project down from a $450,000 project to a $400,000 project. I don't know that we need granite seat walls and kind of everything. We're going to try to make this project make sense budgetarily. Of course, we're going to challenge the community to continue to raise additional dollars, and we can always add elements back in or do additional things with it. And then this request is for $300,000 from the Commissioner's Fund to fund the rest of that $400,000 project. We believe that 75-25 split parks to community for an item that the Parks Board is interested in and has said that they're committed to is a kind of fair community split in a fundraising. And so that's where that project sits. The next steps then would be to go out and actually develop a plan for a dog park that would be around $400,000. Meanwhile, as we've said from the beginning, it's still contingent on community fundraising. I know they're hard at work to do that. Next up is the Mount Airy bike course. This is another project that has been a couple years building up. Cora has raised, well, so let's see. We have set aside $100,000 previously for an accessible path, and we set aside $150,000 to improve the comfort stations the comfort station that's near that. Cora has, my understanding is, between Cora and the Parks Foundation, they've raised about $100,000 towards this project. This $140,000 would be the final piece of that would make this project then be a go project. At which point it would move from the money side to the planning and design side, where they'd start to get some bids and kind of look at what the actual process forward is. I'll admit that I lost, for some reason, the Prentice stole my page 35. But from memory, I will say that next up is some funding for fleet and for some vehicles. I believe it's $246,000. Thank you, Crystal. And I was right, 246. Last year, Park Board generously put $750,000. I'm sorry, $740,000 towards buying vehicles. As we all know, it's tough to buy things right now. I haven't been in the market for a car, but my understanding is you can't just go to a dealership and buy a car right now. It's quite difficult. And so do a couple of different things. One, dealing with the straight procurement contract, the city was piggybacking on, chip delays, supply chain, availability of vehicles. We're at a point where some of the pricing came back and was more expensive. And so to get the full list of vehicles that we proposed to you guys back when that funding allocation was made, which the three that we need, or the four that we need additional funding for, is to get the dump truck, which my understanding is like a truck with it's not like a dump truck like you would think about picking up garbage, but a dump truck that has the lift gate or the back that lifts, and then two Ford F-250 and a Ford F-350 that our team needs. And then the fourth piece is what's called a Sherpa, which is a machine that moves things around internal and would be used at Crone Conservatory. So for the Crone Conservatory, that's about $36,000. We'll tap into the Crone fund for that. We have a fund balance in the Commissioner's Fund that has funding for Crone. And then for the other vehicles, we would go from a variety of sources within the Commissioner's Fund to fund that, to make sure we could get all of the vehicles that you originally budgeted for us to get. And then we're also seeing some good news on about $860,000 or so that came out of the city's allocation for fleet in 2021 as well. And we're starting to see some movement on that. Some of the vehicles have been ordered, and the rest of these vehicles will be ordered hopefully soon. And we think we might even be able to get in within a year. Still sounds like a long time, but it's incredible progress given and that fleet problem is citywide. All the city departments are dealing with fleet issues. So that's the piece on that. As an aside, we're also pursuing down a path to lease some vehicles in the interim in order to make sure our staff have the vehicles they need in order to continue to service parks. And then the last request is $100,000 for a grant writer. This has been a conversation we've had over several board meetings since I've been hired. And the idea is to use commissioners' funds to help pay for that. That position we would then hopefully post for within the next month or so. Derek's been working on getting that through HR and getting that position created. And then the idea would be that grant writer would be able to work with all of our partners, whether it's the Parks Foundation and their team writing grants, or whether it's partners like Cora or others that are writing grants, to identify grants and then work together to write the grants. But somebody will ultimately hit send, but ultimately we hope that team will all be working together to identify and access funds that can continue to bring funds together that we can use for various priorities throughout the parks. So we're really excited for that spot. The preliminary plan is for that position to live within Rocky Shop, community engagement and volunteerism, or volunteers. And then, but they would obviously work with departments across the parks. So whether it's Crystal's team and Department of Natural Resources, or whether it's Jenny's team in operation, or whether it's Joel's team in plan design looking for capital dollars, they could be liaise with all of that. And so, and kind of be the person that's like, quarterbacking that process to get those information in, make sure we're submitting all the things and everything's ready to go and submitted. So
timeline.
So if approved, like I said, Derek's already been talking to the department or the central HR down at City Hall about getting that position created. And so our hope would be we get it created relatively soon and then, post it and hopefully get some great applicants quickly. But I don't want to overpromise, but this is step one to having a quick timeline, or the quickest we can manage.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll open it up. Questions, comments for Jason?
Well, there's just a lot to talk about here.
There
So
absolutely
we can
is.
start. I'm happy to start.
Why don't you start?
Okay, I'll kick it off. So a lot to cover. Maybe I can just go through
Absolutely.
go through it all and then open it up to you to address. I would like to, we don't have to go deep into this today, but get some perspective on just more on a broad scale, how we manage honeysuckle, because we have so much of it. And as you know, my company went out and did some volunteer work this week and we knocked back a lot in about 3 hours. And we had staff come behind us and spray. So I think we made some progress there. And I kept saying to my children, many hands make light work, right? And this has got to be a big part of the honeysuckle removal plan. And it's just like the work's never done. It's constant. So I'm just curious, how do we get to 17,000? Who are we paying to do what? And how much does that really cover for us? And how much of a bite are we taking out of honeysuckle? I'm going to say, I want to say dog park for last.
Cool.
I'm super excited about this grant writer. We talked about this before. There's a lot of money out there for a lot of what we do, from historical building preservation to tree canopy to honeysuckle removal. And I think we're just really setting ourselves up for success by having someone dedicated to finding the funding nationally, regionally for what we're trying to accomplish. So thank you for prioritizing that. I hope we can get that filled quickly. Okay, so the Burnet Woods Dog Park. Burnet Woods, I know personally as well as I know any park in our system. I've spent 30 years in Burnet Woods since I came here in 1993 for college. When I think back about Burnet Woods, it's a place where I discovered the city, where I just spent tremendous time making friendships and where I continue to spend time with my family. I love Burnet Woods. I think over 30 years, there are some things about Burnet Woods that have improved dramatically. The trails there are trails. I mean, there was a time when there weren't even trails in Burnet Woods. They're nice trails. Thanks to many volunteer efforts and working with staff, we've removed a lot of the invasive species. You know, that stream that runs through, that's like an asphalt brigade down there, it needs some work. The lake, some parts of the lake have improved, some parts of the lake have deteriorated dramatically. I've always wondered, why do we have all these roads in this relatively small park? It's got way too much asphalt in it. The trail, the nature center is under its highest and best use, for sure. So there's a lot to advocate for in Burnet Woods. I recognize that completely. What I also recognize is this is the center of a very densely populated area of our city. And when I go to Burnet Woods, I'm like, where are the people? And I'm there with a lot of frequency, and I don't know where the people are. Yes, there are some people there, but it is a very underutilized park for its location and for what I believe it should offer to Cincinnati. I think it needs more amenities. I don't think that preservation of our forested area has to be in conflict with providing a place for people to come together and commune. When we had a speaker last week who said, you know, when I have an opportunity to join together with my dog, I love this opportunity. I get an opportunity that I otherwise don't get to meet young people, to meet old people. I've met neighbors that I lived down the street from for 30 years, but have never met. And this is just providing me a richness in my neighborhood that I could not otherwise get. So I get that there are a lot of conflicts on what Burnet Woods needs and what Burnet Woods doesn't need. When it comes to dog park locations, I want to get on the record. It's very hard to get on the record here because, you know, it gets twisted a little. And we've had a lot of discussions about this dog park, and we've had a lot of meetings about this dog park. We originally, when I came on board 2 years ago, this dog park had been under conversation for some years already. And we looked at Dunor Park. I did not believe that Dunor Park was a great location for this dog park. There was a massive survey. We got a lot of feedback, not just on Dunor, but on a dog park in Clifton in that survey. So when we say we have gotten input on a dog park in Clifton, we have gotten tremendous input on this dog park in Clifton. we had staff follow up and say, it's very clear that that Clifton wants a dog park, but that Due North is not an ideal location. And with that, I wholeheartedly agree. When staff brought the considerations to us and had boxes, this has been brought back to us many times. We had an in-depth discussion about our agreement with where staff was in some of those boxes. And we ended with Pleasant Valley as being the ideal location for that, because other locations had flood issues. Other locations were very unideal for a lot of reasons. I believe that Pleasant Valley is an ideal location because of its proximity to a business district and because of its proximity to a very walkable community. I recognize that not everybody agrees with that position, but I do. I am really excited about this. I don't see this as an alternative to deferred maintenance. I think we've been very clear as a commission, and I personally as a commissioner, if I speak for myself, on that being a priority, of course, with safety, as he said, President Getz being a priority. So I appreciate all the airtime on the dog park. I just want to make my position on this really clear. I'm excited to push this forward. And I appreciate that something that's been kicked around that has created tremendous division in Clifton is, I hope that we can see this through and appreciate you continuing to navigate this.
So if I could respond to that, I think the Torrance Parkway was the one you had a question.
Yes.
And I will be honest, I'm not the master of this project. I don't think it's Dave Utel that is leading this.
And it is a Tree Care Inc.
Okay, so it is a contract with Tree Care Inc. to have them come in, and this specific spot that is a gateway to that community and you know, on Columbia Parkway will be a specific kind of one-off project. So as we treat honeysuckle as a whole, I was out on Monday as well. I was out with Crystal. I don't yet have the ability to do any spraying, but I was at least out checking out what the team was doing in California Woods, where they had about 15, 20 volunteers, I'd say, that were all out, just all hands on deck, just like you saw at some of the sites that you were at. We have
Give me some credit. I was actually.
Correct. Hands dirty. And so, you know, this is definitely an issue that we're going to have to manage for a long time. One of the things everybody likes to ask me, you know, what was it like when you came into this job? Was it just, you know, everybody's all like, how were things? And as I've said continuously, I've been just blown away by how committed and dedicated the staff are. I've also been spending a lot of time trying to figure out kind of the history of parks and decisions that have been made and things that were prioritized and deprioritized. And, you know, there's a long lineage of dedicated parks employees that for years have just been making these assets amazing for us. But one thing that did seem to change over the last about 3 or so years ago was that we stepped up our focus on conservation and land management. And we created a team called Conservation and Land Management. And that is in Crystal's department, the Department of Natural Resources. And I think that's the first time that we've really, as a park system, put an effort in fighting back these invasive species. I think that there were one-off efforts before. There were people that would do projects. There were probably projects like this that said, hey, we got to knock this back a little bit, or the operations team would have various projects. But again, this isn't a decision I made. This decision made long before me. But I think that's a sign of some of the progress we've made in that. Now it's on me and us to figure out how to fully fund that and get more people in that division so we can continue to do this work. A lot of different projects are being done because this is a great opportunity for volunteers. Crystal Johnson Roberts, I think, reported there were 300 volunteers out on Monday. It's our biggest MLK Day volunteerism program ever, or at least in recent memory. We're already hard at work getting projects for the Mayor's Corporate Challenge that's coming up in a couple months. I got a chance to participate with that a lot 10 years ago.
Date of that, by the way? Do you have a date?
I do not have that on.
May 27th.
May 27th.
Same day as the skate.
Same day as a skate party.
Skate party that night. Work all day long, and then that night we're going to go skating. But there's also some work that we're doing with Civic Garden Club. Sam, who is here, right? We're working on some various volunteer training programs around that. That I know. Admittedly, I have a couple of emails and meetings. Crystal and I are having a meeting tomorrow that I think that's going to be one of the topics of discussion about some creative ways that we might be coming back to you for some additional funds in the future to fund some projects to continue to build out that volunteer base. So It's something that we're hard at work at, and we're gonna continue to make sure that we do everything we can. It's one of the things I've gotten to learn a lot about in my short stint with parks is how different an area that has been well managed versus an area that's been let go. And in fact, some of the walks that I've done with folks, including Rama and Burnet Woods, can show me some of the areas where they've been able to like eliminate the honeysuckle, and then some areas that whether it's honeysuckle or other invasives, there's still work to do, and you can just see the difference that makes in the quality of the forest and the health of the forest. And so it's going to be something we continue to really put a lot of effort into.
And maybe something we can come back in a future meeting, give a full proposal on what the plan is moving forward. Kind of looks at that, 100-year scale, like how do we really get there? Looking at the land across and then what the restoration needs are, because you can't just, even the work that you did on Monday, if it's not maintained, then it will be right back to what it was.
Right. Yeah.
So there has to be this cyclical, ecologically focused effort to restore that area long term.
Yeah.
And understanding forest threats. And I still want to get a prohibition on bamboo planted. So I need some help advancing that. It's gonna come into our parks.
Very good.
Yes.
Misspoke, it's the mayor's corporate challenge is May 12th.
May 12th.
May
It's on a Friday.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments, questions regarding?
On the Torrance Park, tell me again who's been hired to do this work?
I believe it's Tree Care Inc. Correct.
Tree?
Care Inc. CARE Inc. TCI. I was actually just meeting with my friend Jennifer up at the Parks Foundation office last week, and as I pulled into park, there was a giant truck that had people up in a tree, and they were taking down a tree very clearly. They had the chainsaws out, and there was a whole area cordoned off, and they were getting ready to fell a branch, which I stood around and was a little bit late to the meeting, so I wanted to watch that. And on the side of the trucks, one of them said Tree Care Inc. So I think it's probably a contractor we do a lot of work with. So
I would just include the pear tree moratorium along with the bamboo. Mhm. What's that? It is now. When did that happen?
It was this year that it finally went to effect.
Nice.
An article on it.
when education is such a big piece, so many trees that were brought in because they're beautiful. This would be lovely in my yard, or this would be lovely on my several acres of a personal property, and then.
Kind of like honeysuckle.
What's that? Exactly.
Kind of like honeysuckle, right?
It starts out, or bamboo, it starts out as something that's made, you think that you love you love nature, little do you know that you're making decisions that can hurt it. So that'll be a big piece of what we're trying to do as well. And every volunteer we get out there is a new champion that's out talking about that, explaining it away. So.
It's great.
Anybody else, comments, questions? I am also happy about the funding for the Cora bike course. Another example of a great partner with Cora and the work that they've been doing. And this helps us share the cost with those that are raising the money as well. Obviously, Burnet Woods Dog Park, I appreciate the work that staff has done in putting together the document that I believe is on the website now, that many of the concerns, questions that we heard this morning are addressed in that. So we have taken the time, and all the comments that we've heard over the past few years, we've addressed those. So I appreciate the work that you did on that.
They'll provide influence as we continue to make the final plans for it, right? We're going to pursue the best plans we can to make it the best possible addition.
Mr. President, my only comment on that one is that I recognize, as we all do, the critical importance of input from communities on what happens in our parks. That is critically important. And I appreciate the time that everybody spends coming out and sharing their positions. As we move forward, I think it's going to be critically important to continue to be engaged. One of the things that our director mentioned about the basketball court is that we will give the community the opportunity to come out and physically see what that's going to look like in terms of ground coverage. I hope I'm quoting you correctly on that. And I think that kind of engagement going forward on any project at least offering the community the opportunity to do that is going to be critical. And to make sure that we have provided the community with a clear documentation of our progress to making decisions on these issues. So it's not like we have not been transparent, because that was one of the commitments we made, is that we want to be transparent and we want to engage the community. We're almost never going to have everybody on board with every decision. But the commitment is that we will have everybody on board with offering the opportunity for input, because I think that's critical. And having that document out and making sure that people know it's there so they can understand the history and the timeline and progress of decision-making on this is going to be important.
Just one other comment, I think Molly raised the issue of the road, eliminating a road. And I think the dog park is around 10,000 square feet or something like that. So maybe we can say for every, let's eliminate 10, 20,000 feet of paved surface to offset, mitigate, some of that, have a little bit of a nice trade-off there.
I think that's absolutely right, Commissioner. And like I mentioned earlier during the public comment, I think that there's an incredible opportunity both to right size kind of those access roads. Joel did at least mention that we might have some needs for safety vehicles,
sure,
but there's so much space that can be removed over the next several years. And then I think the opportunity with MSD to try to green light that the stormwater aspect of the sewer that goes there is just a generational opportunity to restore a lot of the natural aspects of that park that were turned into roads years ago or sewers years ago. And I mean, I don't know what it'll look like, but the vision of having some sort of a stream, where you think of Lick Run or the project of Rapid Run that the Parks has done along the access road to Rapid Run, Sunset, the opportunity to turn that into kind of a natural area is just like a wetland area. It's just amazing. I was just out with Jenny and some folks at Kitty Heights Park, which is a park that I think is a very neighborhood park not everybody's been to, but there's an incredible kind of wetland area along an access road into the old Schroeder School. It's just this really cool area. It's got this little meandering trail through there. And you think about that opportunity to create those experiences for folks to visit the park over the next several years could be really tremendous.
Yeah, I would encourage you pull out, MSD did come and provided to us a preview of what they have planned there. And it's a big project, obviously, but at the end of the day, the opportunities for daylighting the stream, plus the educational aspect of what has been proposed in that project with stations along the way, identifying the ecological importance of each of the different phases of that is really critical. So as much as we can come to bear on MSD, it would be a Lick Run type of project, where at the end of the day, you've got a daylighted stream there and you've got educational opportunities throughout Burnet Woods. So it'd be great. So whatever we can do to support you and impressing upon MSD.
I want to take their ideas and we're going to put the Joel and the Chris and our team spin on it to make it even better.
There we go.
One other question on timing relative to the bike course in Molly area. Part of that is bringing the conference stations back online. That's correct, right?
The conversation.
Conference stations, the bathroom.
Correct, yes. So we have $150,000 that's already, you guys have already voted on the past. We already have a line item for that.
And we have heard this morning about the importance of that. And I just want to point out that that is part of what will be happening as a result of doing that course. And timing on that.
So now that we'll have the funds, if it's approved today, we'll then move into the next phase of kind of, again, figuring out what the priorities are for Joel's team, how much bandwidth we have, and where to report back. So no promises on when we move forward, but the funding will be there now. And then we can as we talk about the brain and the various spreadsheets that Joel has, this one will now move into the fully funded spot, right? So it moves from kind of considerations, I think the tab is called, which is like, we want to do this. As soon as we get funding, we can do it. It'll now move onto the initiated tab. And then that is where we kind of prioritize, we pass the plan of work at the December meeting, again, as we talked about then, we can always add stuff to it, but this was not on it. But now we can start to prioritize it through there, and then eventually we'll go to contract, and that's when it goes to the in progress phase. So but we'll report back on that, but
Very good.
again, I like to under promise, and then as we get projects done and as we have time and bandwidth, we'll move forward as quick as we can.
Great.
Cool. Any other questions? We've got a recommendation before us for approving additional $803,000, $550 for these items coming out of the Park Board Commissioners Funds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Our next item, Jason, is Rapid Run Park Art Installation. Are you going to walk us through that? or-
I am. So this is a very fun project. It is brought to us by Price of Will and some community partners. And the idea is to create kind of a living board game throughout Rapid Run and Recreation Center. There will be 63 mosaic pieces through it. I'll be honest, I haven't played the game yet, or I don't fully know how it's played, but there'll be 63 pieces. They received a $15,000 grant in order to do it. I believe about 19 of the pieces will be in Rapid Run Park, so what we're in control of. They'll mostly be stationed near park benches throughout the park. You can see in the attachment kind of where those pieces are at. The city, because they will be the semi-permanent, they'll be there for a while. The city wanted us to go through or recommended we go through the art donation process. So while this isn't art like a statue that will be around for 100 years, it is a project that will be there for a while. So one of the steps is it needs to be approved by the park board. That's what we're asking for today. It's on the agenda for the planning commission tomorrow. And I believe will be installed later this spring. And then Mr. President, you're gonna get to vote on it twice, because you'll probably also get to vote on it for Dunham Recreation
Yep.
Center at the next CRC.
Yep.
So I'll answer any questions. I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on this, other than when I first had it come across my desk, to me, this seemed simple. It seemed like a fun thing to do in a park, which seems great. It seemed like it had low impact, but who am I to say? So the first thing I did was reach out to Jenny and her team. Matt Hood manages this park for us for the West Operations District. And Matt said, it seems great. Matt coordinated with Joel to make sure that it wouldn't have any sort of an impact on any of our infrastructure and that it would fit in. I got thumbs back all along. And so to me, this seemed like a no-brainer and something fun to do in the park.
Jason, just to augment what you said there, some of them they wanted to put out in more open spaces, and we guided them kind of towards put them under benches or close to things that wouldn't impact people or cause safety issues. So that was probably the only thing we discussed.
Yeah, that was the only thing they said that there would be like an inch lip or something, but we're comfortable that this isn't going to cause people falling over them.
Yeah, they're placing a lot of them under the benches where you can still see them, but they wouldn't be in the pathway to walk.
Okay.
Have either of you gone and seen this in operation anyplace else?
I have been to Greenville, South Carolina, where they have little mice throughout their downtown. And it is a fun little thing for, especially the younger kids as you're walking through downtown. My kids were always like looking for the little brass mice that they have down there. I haven't seen mosaics so much, but just to have, the different.
Do we know someplace else where this is being done with the mosaics?
I do not know of any other.
We can certainly find that out.
I'm real curious about that.
I think this was a homegrown with the Price Hill Will. Is this Price Hill Will? Yeah, the Price Hill Will people. I think this was a homegrown idea that they put in for funding, as we see here through the Ohio Arts Council. So I don't know that it's something that's been replicated as it's presented to us.
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
I just think it sounds terrific. I'm really excited about it.
Something.
Board game with 1.5 mile board is a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
I think it's great too. One question I have, Jenny, maybe you can address this. I think we probably can all point to a park where there was an installation that is past its prime and looks bad and really needs to be removed altogether. It looks like we take responsibility for that. So they have an opportunity to do some maintenance to it 18 months after initial installation. But then that's their only opportunity to make improvements to it, and they have no obligation to remove it and no obligation to maintain it. So what do you think about making sure that this doesn't become tired and a blight, really?
So my understanding is if there is something that is broken or needs to be repaired, that we have obviously the right to contact them. They have an opportunity to come in and either replace it, or then after a very short period of time, we have the permission to remove it as well, if needs so, if need be. So if for some reason this would become abandoned in 10 years, say, and they are not responding to us anymore to be able to replace it, then we would take steps to remove it. And
What's your feel for the cost of removal?
I think it's very minimal.
It is minimal,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Anything that's a fix, Molly, would be a facade, like on a light pole base or things like that. And the
Okay.
other ones are so small, like 10 inches by 10 inches, that are literally 95%.
Okay, got it. All right, that's all. It's exciting. I can't wait to see it. What's the timeline for this being installed?
I believe it's spring.
Spring? Oh, great.
Great.
Perfect.
That is good.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
How easy will it be for somebody else to remove it with a shovel? I mean, I see that as well as just freeze thaw, popping these, the pieces out potentially is hopefully they've taken that into consideration.
Rapid Run Park advisory for too much of my life. But, I've been working with Airy and Caldwell on this, and we don't have too much of a vandalism problem in Rapid Run Park. So I don't see that as a problem. The police District 3 has been working with us on the homeless problem. We all know that is a problem in the parks. And they've been very good about monitoring that at Rapid Run. Not that that leads to vandalism, but like I said, we've had minimal vandalism. So, because we use the park.
Great.
That's the key.
That's great.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Motion and multiple seconds to approve request to install. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Jason. Oh, did you have a question? Go ahead.
No.
We'll retract.
It just flew out of my head. I knew I did have something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, don't hold up.
So Craig, you want to talk to us about extension of the lease on Fifth Third's ATM?
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Near the Moorline Logger House, there is a Fifth Third ATM, and that lease with Fifth Third ends in February of 2023. Fifth Third Bank reached out to us about renewing that lease for 5 more years. And working with the real estate department downtown and law department, they provided the updated lease renewal, and that is what is provided to you today for approval.
Is there any downside, any issues in the staff mind about renewing this?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, do we have a motion?
Did we get much of an increase from the previous?
No, we do not. This is what real estate has provided these lease opportunities. What they do is they look at the market for it. In some situations, you'll see an increase. In other situations, you do not, and sometimes you actually see a decrease.
That's real estate within the city's law department, correct?
We have a motion on the floor to approve the recommendation.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll turn it over to our director for your comments.
Couple short comments today. So I mentioned MLK Day of service. We had 260 volunteers, I said almost 300 earlier at 9 parks across the city, including a large group from How Iron Inc. Thank you very much. Again, it sounds like some children as well from families in How Iron. We have a couple of photos of these folks that are out and about. So just, again, parks are shared by us all and like what we get from our volunteers. We had several different packs that represented today, from Stanberry to Burnet Woods to Rapid Run, just such a huge piece of what we're doing. Currently, USA Today is taking votes for the best. It's a company called the 10 Best, is like a USA Today subsidiary. And they are currently having to vote of the best river walks in the country. We are currently 4 as of the last time I looked at it yesterday. We were 2 last year. And that's in large part thanks to how awesome Snail Riverfront Park is and the River Walk, but then also Rocky's team getting the word out and content partners and stuff. There's even an article in the Inquirer this week encouraging folks to vote on it, which we saw a little bit of an uptick. And so I encourage anybody that's watching at home to get online, 10best.com, look for the river walks and vote for us to be one of the best.
You're saying we're currently 4, you mean in terms of the votes
voting,
that
correct, yeah.
have been casted today?
Yep, and you can only vote once per device. But if you got several phones or if you got that laptop and an iPad.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Once you vote, it will it'll tell you what the rank is. It's kind of like, thank you for your vote for Snail. Snail is currently 4.
Got it.
And so once per day per device.
Per device.
Per device, yeah.
And that's out on all of our social media.
Hard at work. The Crone Holiday Show closed on January 10th, and Mark House and his team at Crone continue to absolutely crush it. We set a record for Holiday Show revenue this year by $90,000, bringing in a total of $537,000. As I like to joke with Mark, you got a Sherpa. So thank you today for voting to use some of those Crone funds for that. But super exciting, and then also. We're really excited, starting February 1st, the Bunnies and Balloons show is going to be really neat. I got to learn a lot about this. We had a bunny enthusiast write us earlier this week to ensure that we weren't going to be mean to the bunnies. I thought to myself, of course we're not, but I should know why. So I reached out to Mark, and Mark responded to me really quickly with all of the stuff we're doing to make sure that the bunnies are separated from the flowers, that there will always be a Crone employee in the room with folks when they're in there. The bunnies go into hutches at night. We're working with a local farm in rabbitry, which was a word that I can kind of backwards understand what it means, but I'd never heard that word before. But a local company, I think it's Green Eggs and Honey, I believe is the name of the farm. And they're working with us to be our partner. And so it's a really exciting show that I think is going to keep the energy going from the holiday show and from the record-setting Prismatica show, and just continues to get better over there.
This is the first time we've done this show, right?
Correct. So one of the, you get, I joke, when you become president, you get to find out about the aliens. When you become parks director, you get to find out about all of the shows that are coming up. So Mark brought his team of florists over, and as I'm finding with many of our florists, they are just artists. And so they outlined the next 3 shows for me, which you cannot share, just like the info about the aliens, I assume. But the bunnies one was really cool, and they've got a couple of fun ones coming up as well that are just going to really blow folks away.
So talk to me about the bunnies. What do the people going to see get to do with it? Do they get to touch the bunnies?
They don't get to touch the bunnies, but there will be basically bunny enclosures within the flowers. So the flowers will be around the bunnies, and the bunnies will be separated, and they'll be separated from any flowers that aren't kind of natural for them.
They shouldn't eat.
Correct, exactly. But they will add kind of another element. Also, in working with both our team at Crone and the farm and rabbitry partner, they're going to provide educational opportunities. And so after sending an email back to this concerned kind of rabbit enthusiast person, where they asked me, they implored me to set their fears aside, and they responded that I had. But because one of the pieces we're doing is educating people about what it takes to own bunnies. So in conversation with this person over email, they said that oftentimes people get bunnies, they have no idea what they're in for, and the poor bunnies aren't great pets for some folks. And so one of the things we're going to do as we bring in kids and bring in families is have these educational events, again, with our team and with the rabbitry, in order to educate people about what it takes, what bunnies want, what bunnies need. It's a different pet than a dog or any other pet, right? So we're really excited for just kind of the educational opportunities. As Crone just always is teaching us different things, usually about flowers in our natural spaces, but in this case about bunnies. So it's really exciting.
What happens with them after the show?
they will go back to the rabbit tree.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're on loan.
Rabbit
Unlike-
hash.
Yeah. Unlike the artwork that we just voted to accept, these are on loan.
Okay. It's true.
Another thing that Rocky's team's doing is that we're in the process of replacing signs, hundreds of signs throughout parks. A lot of our signs, like this one is a fine sign, right? Oh, sorry. It's the before.
That's it.
That's the after.
Sorry.
Did not show.
Gotcha. So the before, it's in your packet, but the before, or not, it's not, I can pass the before around.
That's another one.
But the before, they just are a little faded. They're not that old, but they can just become a little faded. You can see that this one hasn't been up for long, but it already has a couple little dings on it. You know, they're out in the world to be used. And so we're trying to update all of those signs. When I was at California Woods the other day, there's a sign that actually looks like it was designed by Rocky's team, but it is in like a little folder insert that you put in like your trapper keeper, like a little plastic insert. It's just stapled to a post. And so I imagine that's one of the signs that's on Rocky's list. So we're knocking that out. And then the last thing, later this month is the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association meeting. We're taking a team of about 9 people up to that. All the division managers and all the folks on our team are going up to the Ohio Department of Recreation, Parks and Recreation, to meet with folks around the state that are doing what we're doing, to learn best practices, to share some of our successes, and to get better at our job and think big picture about our job. I'm also excited for the opportunity to kind of get the division managers away and just kind of have some social time with us as a team. And we've mentioned this before, but we're going to receive an award for second place for park renovation and new park space for the Burnet Woods of Evanston, which we talked about a couple of meetings ago, but so exciting stuff all around.
Great. Super.
That is all I have.
That's great.
Question on our signs.
Mhm.
And we're doing a lot of sign replacements, like the bigger ones and now these. One of the things we talked about some time ago is providing the opportunity for people to provide feedback to us as they're walking through the parks. And as is adding QR codes to signs straightforward? And is that a way that people can get feedback to us? Like
It's
timely?
straightforward, and yes, we have an account to be able to do that, and we are incorporating those wherever we can.
Okay, because I was looking at these signs and thinking.
Yeah, so on the, I think we've talked to you, there's a few different areas we're working on with signs. But the kiosk project is putting up new kiosks at about 60 locations, and that's consolidating a lot of signs, making these nice, well-maintained kiosks that we can easily change. Those all will have QR codes as part of them on the sort of the main sign.
But you're not doing it on this kind of a sign.
So it won't be on every sign, but I think the logic behind it would be to have it in key places where folks can, are at kind of a starting point or an ending point where they'd then be able to scan that QR code. I know I've been paying attention to I've been super paying attention to our signs site out and about. And there's definitely areas throughout our parks where we already have phone numbers and email addresses.
Is there a cost to putting that little square duo, whatever you call it? I'll never learn that name. On every sign? Is there a reason not to do
There's
it
no
on?
additional cost for it. No, we're just.
Why wouldn't you do it on every sign so that people could take their phones and have contact with the park?
Yeah, we could certainly come up with something. You know, one of the things we're doing through this project is there were many different kinds of, say, keep your dog on the leash signs that were just already out throughout the system, so consolidating.
Right.
So as we go through that, yeah, we could look at adding something at the bottom that talks about
Because
to see the complete list of rules or more information. About
Yeah, but people understand, I mean, younger people understand what that thing means. And the fact that they take their phone to it and it gives them information and a contact. So I think it'd be worth adding to all signs.
Yeah, we definitely.
I mean, you might look at, I don't know if you can just get labels of that QR code, just go around and even ones that you don't replace, just slap them on.
Well, it is a project that is underway and ongoing.
Okay.
And so we'll definitely take that, great suggestion. And already Rocky's team has been thinking about it, but we can definitely think about ways to augment that and improve that.
Perfect.
Perfect. Forward. So great.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
We'll open it up, other commissioner comments and discussions for the open issues.
Just a question on the biochar. If there is, I know there was a couple of vendors that we were talking about exploring. I'm just curious if there was any information that they all have, videos of their systems or whatever that could be, shared, with the group. So we just kind of get a sense or an idea of what it looks like and how it.
We can definitely get some information for you to send around. Just over the last week or two, since the start of the new year, we have engaged purchasing on how that purchasing process will go for selecting the facility that we want. Joel and his team and Crystal have been out to the Deal Road site to start to talk about kind of how that fits in with the other work we're doing. We've been working with Great Parks on our, Great Parks and the law department on the memorandum of understanding between us for how that project will be operating moving forward. And additionally, I believe in 2 weeks, Crystal has left, but I believe in 2 weeks, a team of like 4 or 5 of us, including Joel and Chris on the planning design team, myself, Crystal, maybe Jenny, we're all going to go to a farm in Indiana that has a pyrolysis machine and a biochar operation. Now they're using it for farming on their own property, so kind of a business application, but we'll get to learn about how it sits in what size is the thing, where does it go, how does it, where's the, and what do you do beforehand with shipping, how do you store that material, how do you process through what comes, just kind of learn about, where do you plug it in at, which is not how it happens, but for my simple brain, that's how it happens, right? And so kind of learn those elements of it firsthand as Joel and Chris design what will ultimately be our installation.
Great, good.
But we can definitely give you some videos and information so that you can share that around.
So the boaters of the world want to know what season, in what boating season they'll have a boat dock.
As on the plan of work, what we're laid out, so Jenny and I are working on the negotiations with the team right now, with Hafner and Son. We are kind of at the process with the law department on what that contract will look like, which is the next step and kind of what the implications of where we are today versus where when that contract was awarded in 2021, I believe, and just kind of getting the budget together. And that'll be the next steps. And then after that, we'll be working to design how the access to that, the various electrical and water and all those pieces. And then part of the negotiation will be what are the elements of it, at which point I'll bring that back to you guys to let you know kind of what they're proposing now versus in the RFP process. And then our expectation is that we're still working with, in fact, Jenny sent me a couple of things. We received some letters of endorsement or letters of no conflicts this morning that were sent off to the Army Corps. That permit is in and in process. So we're then continuing to add pieces to that, answer their questions to get that permit approved. And then once we kind of negotiate what that will be, they'll then start procuring that. And that's when one of the things we're expecting from them soon-ish is what will it look like? What are they proposing for it? And then we'll provide that back to our board for any sort of input before we kind of move on to the next phase of procurement. And then our hope is that we can be starting construction early next year. So, but this year we'll be getting that permit and getting everything lined up. There's a lot, like this is a weird application because unlike say Deal Road or many of the construction projects we talk about, like Lytle Park, you scrape it, you do it, and then you build it on site. Much of this will be brought in and kind of linked up. So some of the work will happen that won't seem like work, I think, on our side of on the public landing, and then we'll eventually connect it to that. So, but more updates moving along, but they have a really impressive matrix of all of the various pieces of this, or all of the different pieces of getting it done and kind of where it's at and what's going next. So they've really got their arms wrapped around it. We're meeting every 2 weeks talking about that. So.
Thank you.
A couple of things for me. One, the volunteer numbers are incredible. And I hope that we are publicizing that and encouraging other people to join in volunteering in our parks. We talked about some time ago, volunteer recognition. We used to have as a part of our agenda, a volunteer award or recognition or whatever, and we don't do that anymore. We talked about the possibility of having some volunteer recognition event, maybe once a year. Don't know what that would look like. But because volunteers are so important to us, so critical to our getting the things done that we do, I think we ought to be more deliberate and more proactive in recognizing that and acknowledging it. I know we don't hesitate to say it, but I don't think we can say it enough or too much, certainly not too much. So I would encourage us to take a look at how we do that. And I know it gets recognized on social media. Haven't been on lately, so I'm behind. The Martin Luther King one, I hope those pictures are out there and that we're saying thank you. And the other one is the discussion about honeysuckle removal.
So volunteerism, first of all,
yes,
if I could interject.
Sure.
Because I have great news on that, which is that the Volunteer Appreciation Committee just met.
Good.
My time runs together, but I believe it was last week. It might have been the week before. And we were talking about how, and this is as with all too many things across the globe, things fall off because of COVID. And so we were talking about how to bring that back, whether that is some sort of a picnic or whether that's some sort of an event or just all of the different things. We were fortunate enough at the end of the year last year to be able to host Volunteer Appreciation Night at Cincinnati Reds. Thank you, Commissioner, for helping us make that happen.
Yes.
And that was a great event where I think we had like 70 people show up and get appreciated that way. And so we're basically that was something that Commissioner Castellini brought to us, but we're putting that on the front burner. And so that's something that we're bringing back. We're bringing back several things like that. Jenny spearheaded the Renewed Safety Committee. That's another committee that we had for a long time and that kind of fell by the wayside. The Safety Committee had their second meeting yesterday, and they are like rocking and rolling. We were hoping to we put it out there. We wanted to kind of a diverse group of folks. I think in December, we invited folks to volunteer for it or to ask their staff. We've got folks from all across the regions, from all across the levels of parks. I think we had like 20 people in the committee. I think we had to stop taking people. They'd be like, you're on the wait list. Be safe when you're around, but like we'll get you when we can.
Yeah.
But they're proceeding down several different paths. So that's just another thing we're kind of bringing back, and we're trying to raise up the focus on that. But volunteer appreciation is a big one. And I think with our friends at the foundation, we're going to look at a lot of ways to recognize our volunteers in the coming years. I like a good picnic as much as the next.
I can't say thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
That, right?
Yep.
I've forgotten to say this 3 times in this meeting. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, many staff people showed up to work a very full and hard day on their day off. Many. So
That's great.
a lot of appreciation and with no care about it. I mean, we said thank you so many times for showing up on their day off, and everyone was just grateful for the additional hands. So it was great. And I recognize a few people that have come in for introductions on their first day. So I think that's just so great for us to have the opportunity to step here and out in the field, of course.
Great. And I'm sorry I interrupted, but I wanted to.
Yes.
We're on.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. The only other one I had was just to follow up and echo the discussion about honeysuckle. Since and I guess it's invasive species in general, but honeysuckle specifically and bamboo, of course. But and I know you're working on this, but to make that a project and saying, so we've got some measure of where we are and we know how much progress we're making. And we can again engage volunteers and the public in helping us with that, because I recognize that's a big job. And I know that's something you're already working on. So thanks.
I'll piggyback on that too. I was thinking the same thing, and I think about the contract that we did with mad scientists at Burnet Woods, and I'm just wondering if that program works well, if that model works well, because I know in talking with your staff, there's places like Burnet Woods needs a lot of help. There's areas obviously in Mount Airy Forest that needs a lot of work. But if we could see if that is a model where it works, that we could intentionally go out to other parks, maybe 2 a year, or if there's a way to systematically approach this.
So I think what Chris was talking about earlier is I think we'll set a time, maybe not, I don't know if it'll be February or March, but over the next couple of meetings, we'll have a presentation by Crystal's team about invasive species and kind of our land management plan and kind of our path, projects we think are working, projects we're trying, we want to get more data on. I think invasive species are one of those things where if you were to give us, and Crystal can correct me, but I think it's one of the things where you give us $10 million and 100 people, we can knock it back, but then you got to stay on top of it because, you know, one seed can quickly turn into an overpopulation of this. And so it isn't so much as a problem that we will solve, but it is a problem that we need to be on top of. We need to have the best strategies and the most volunteers and the most activation to kind of continue to manage, conservation and land management. And I think that's where we've got just such a great team, Crystal's team and folks that are working with her, that are coming up with these great plans. And then it's the thing that'll happen at this table is how to dump more resources into that and then strategically identify those resources to make sure that they've got as much as they can to continue to manage that as best as possible and look for areas where they'll have the most impact.
Very cool. Great. Anything else? Nothing else? Well, again, great meeting. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for the energy to get through this meeting, but I appreciate it. So with that, we will adjourn and it's before noon.